So how the hell do you do a cold open to Back to the Future?
I don't know about that, man, but in celebration of the 100th episode, I have actually reworked our theme music.
No way!
Yeah, I know. I spent hours and hours and hours on it with some dear friends. We can name check later on. But I'll drop it into the chat and you guys can have a listen to it right now. Roads.
What are you looking at, butthead?
Oh!
Wow.
Ben, I love it. That was awesome.
That was
Thank you
Like,
very
the theme
much.
tune was already brilliant, and then you just amped it up.
Don't worry about the copyright infringement. I'm sure Back to the Future have got enough money to leave us alone.
I definitely thought you should say, "Oh, that was us doing it."
It was us doing it.
wink.
Yes, it was
Yeah,
us.
of course
It was
Yeah.
us. It was us mimicking and doing perfect impersonations of people from Back to the Future.
Well, great Scott! We've made it to our 100th episode without the need for a plutonium-powered DeLorean, and yet 99 episodes later, we still don't have hoverboards. And as this is a very special episode, it only seems fitting that we finally get around to talking about my personal favourite film of all time, and I'm sure maybe Ben's as well?
Yeah. 100%.
Jose?
It's up there.
David, we know it's not.
It's not mine, no. Oh, sorry.
And that film is Robert Zemeckis' Back to the Future. I'm your host, Neil, and for this momentous occasion, I'm joined, of course, by my OG co-host and a man who was not even born when Back to the Future came out in 1985. That is Mr. David Long. David, we've reached 100 episodes. Who would have thought it when we started We Need Roads all those years ago, during COVID, like every other podcast, we'd still be here now.
And I feel like Paul Rudd eating chicken, eating hot wings. Like,
Yes.
look at us, man.
Look at us.
Look at
Who
us.
would've thought?
Who'd have thought
Who
it?
would've thought? Not me.
Well, David, I have a secret question for you, as it says on the script, so I know how you love having stuff sprung on you at the last minute.
Yeah.
But David, can you remember what the main discussion point was on our very first episode?
Yes, it was. I think it was the sequel to The Shining. I can't
Mhm.
remember what it's called now. Oh my god, I'm mind blanking. Blood something. Oh my god, what was it?
It was Doctor Sleep versus The Shining.
Yes.
And David was in the corner for The Shining, and I was in the corner for Doctor Sleep. And
Oh,
we
I had a little
about
panic there.
40 odd minutes on whether what was the best film. And we
Yeah.
disagreed.
We did disagree because you're wrong.
And we disagreed because it's just someone screaming a lot, and that woman's really annoying. And Doctor Sleep is a better film, and it has Rebecca Ferguson in it. And that started, I think, a lot of our things where David's wrong, I'm right, and, you know, my love for Rebecca Ferguson. All
I
started in
had,
this episode.
I had a win early on in the podcast. I love that. I love that I had a win early on because it
You
was
guys
probably
are such
downhill.
an
from there.
adorable couple. It's amazing.
We've been married for almost 100 episodes, Ben. And then joining us while David was trapped in his horror dungeon or at rehab, either, at episode 57, I was joined for the first time by a literal old shipmate, Mr. Jose Lopez Jr.
Yeah, I can never make it on time, can I?
I mean, 57.
Just a little delay. That's all.
And Jose, my question to you is, what was the first TV show and movie you reviewed with us on that episode? Without Googling, I can want to see your hands. Hold your hands up. There we go. It's fine. You've got a little. You got like. We definitely won't not move on with the podcast if you can't remember. Hands up. Hands where I can see them.
I don't remember at all.
So the TV show was a show that is definitely not around anymore, and it was The Peripheral.
Oh, wow.
Oh man, yeah.
And I never
finished
did
that.
watch it, Jose.
I never finished it, so you're in good company.
Neither did they. Neither did they. And the movie was, we did a spoiler section on The Menu.
Yes, that was a good movie. You should watch that if you haven't.
And then completing the by now classic We Need Your Rose lineup was Mr. Ben Davies, who I've known for, well, way, way too long. And if I said the amount of years, it would age us both horribly.
It would.
And I'm sure you can remember your first episode on, because where else would you got the Ben Lord nickname from?
Yeah, that Guardians of the Galaxy spoiler episode where you just had to call me Ben Lord for no real reason other than it was terribly embarrassing, I think.
Except, Ben, it wasn't your first episode.
Was it not?
Oh,
And that's not even me trying to be clever and going, because you do the theme music and you say We Needed Roads and it's been there for like years, because that would have been a clever answer to, but it isn't that. Jose's dancing, but no, it wasn't that. You actually appeared on episode 65, which was our Picard and Mando season 3 spoiler special.
Oh, was that my first one?
That was your first one. And then we recorded Guardians of the Galaxy, I think, later in the day after that one.
Wow, that's right. Yes. Yeah, I remember.
You tricked him there, Neil. You did dirty.
Double tricked him.
Yeah.
I mean, and also for this episode, I demand that I be called Ben Tannen.
Ben Tannen? I mean, as you've written it on the screen and none of us have remembered or forgot, and also maybe don't know how to do that, then...
Ben Tannen.
Can I just ask, do I get a secret question or was it a secret reveal you just did?
It was kind of a secret reveal. Well, no, I asked you. No, I didn't. It wasn't a secret question, was it?
Never asked him.
You
All right,
come up with
Ben,
something, man,
how's your-
real quick.
It was a secret reveal, not a secret question. It was a. All right.
It was a rhetorical question.
Oh, great. So I've got to do another 50 episodes before I get actual questions asked at me. I get it. Fine, thanks.
Yeah, if you don't make it before 60, then that you don't get counted.
Jose has already forgotten. He only arrived. Oh yeah, wait, no, I got that wrong as well.
57.
Brilliant. Now, if I had a time
Man.
machine, I could go back and fix that.
This is amazing. Normally you're on point, Neil, but like the 100th episode pressure has really got to you and you're starting to get flustered now.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Your
Cut
cheeks are going
everything
red.
out. That makes him look bad.
Well, that definitely means a video's not going up, doesn't it? So, upon reaching this glorious milestone, let me tell you, dear listener, what you're in for. But I'd say wear a life preserver and grab a Pepsi free because we're going to be here for a while. First, we're going to talk the beginnings of the film and try and tell you some little-known stories about the production. Having said that, there are so many stories about the production of this film that are widely known, and we're just going to talk about them anyway because they're really fun. Next, we're going to talk our experiences of seeing Back to the Future for the first time and why the film had such an influence on us growing up and why it stayed a firm favourite for years, except maybe David. But he's wearing our T-shirt with the logo on it, so he gets to live. We then have, as part of this as well, we've all done a recent rewatch. So see if there's anything new we've picked up that we wasn't aware of in all our hundreds of views down the years. And then finally, we're going to talk the legacy of Back to the Future and how it's influenced pop culture over the last 30 or so years. So strap in, gentlemen, because when this episode hits 88 miles an hour, you're going to see some serious shit. Potentially from David, who might need a poop by then.
David
It's so
poops.
true. That was you timed that perfectly as Ben was taking a sip as well.
And he spat beer everywhere.
So, if you don't know by now, Back to the Future was written by Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale and was developed from an idea that Gale had while at his parents' house when he found his dad's old high school yearbook. And he wondered if he would have been friends with his dad at the age of 17. And at this point, Gale and Zemeckis only had 3 bullet points for the story. And it was, a high school kid gets sent back in time, he meets his parents, and his mum falls in love with him. Obviously, they expanded on it a little bit from there.
What does that say about his home life?
What do you mean, that he wouldn't be friends with his dad?
The whole idea came around from him, like wondering if he'd be friends with his dad at 17. Did he think that maybe his mum would fancy him? Like,
Oh my goodness.
I mean, let's just get the weirdness of this movie straight out there. Put it out for everybody. It's pretty incestuous. There's a lot of bullying. There's quite a lot of casual racism, and it does get a bit rapey at one point. So we've got to be careful where we tread here, but we should put it out there that these things do happen.
Well, I think he was just trying to be very aware of the 50s being so like that. I think
What, mothers falling in love with their children?
That's normal, man.
That's totally
50s
normal in the
America.
50s.
Yeah.
well,
The look of shock on Jose's face.
All the time.
any weakness and we're pouncing because this is such a rich tapestry of a movie that we're just like, quick, anybody says anything out of line, let's jump at them straight the fuck away.
Well, I mean, I think that's what they were trying to do, is take away the facade of everything just being nice and sweet, and then, oh yeah, this is what it was really like when you go back and think about it, you know.
The
And
perfect nuclear TV family type
like
vibe.
the peeping Tom and everything like that.
Like a known fact that probably someone's going to come across later is that it was rejected a whole bunch, this film, right?
Yeah.
And the incest thing was with Disney. Disney rejected it basically based off the fact that there was incest in this film, like the car scene. They were
Yeah.
like, nope. So yeah,
It was so
incest
funny.
is big in the film. It makes an appearance.
I mean, like, so if we're going to talk about things like, you know, early things that changed in the movie and stuff like that to really like set the sort of tone of the movie off. There's things like Marty's original surname was McDermott, not McFly, and I can't imagine that movie being this, like, having the same punch.
McDermott.
Hey,
Hello,
McDermott.
Hey, McDermott. I don't see that being a thing. The clock tower ending wasn't there. Instead, Doc and Marty would visit a nuclear test site in Nevada and use the explosion to send Marty home. Again,
Yes.
like, super weird. Takes you completely out of
And
like the.
do you know why they cut that?
Because it's super weird and it would take you completely out of like what the movie was going to be, and it retroactively rips off the beginning of an Indiana Jones movie later on.
True, but honestly, it was all it came down to was just it was so expensive, like to build a facility, and they're like, let's think of something more.
Well, they didn't have to
affordable.
build an actual nuclear facility. They could have
In the desert.
Hmm.
I mean, Christopher Nolan did for Oppenheimer. I'm fairly certain of that.
Yes,
You
definitely.
probably did.
But a lot of it was budget reasons. A lot of things.
And they just stayed on the Universal lot, didn't they?
Yeah, good on them. Budget restrictions. See, that's what happens when you tighten a budget and you do good with it. And what else have I got? Oh, the final scene was different with Doc taking Marty and Jennifer on another adventure and George looking at a 1955 newspaper with Marty playing at the dance and saying, "It can't be, but it is."
Dun, dun, dun.
Which talks to like one of the many paradoxes in this movie, and like something that you could talk about for hours and hours and hours without ever getting to the end of, which we will get into later on. But there's some like little facts there that I had that were, you know, early sort of changes, maybe early deals. Anyone else?
I've got so Doc originally had a pet chimp called Shemp, and there was no Einstein. Einstein, like the best boy, he wasn't there. It wasn't a thing.
Boy.
But head of Universal at the time, Sid Sheinberg, said, no film with the chimp ever made money. And then when Gale argued, what about Clint Eastwood's Every Which Way But Loose?
Which sounds like the first time you've ever said that word. That
Every Which Way But Loose.
Every Which Way But Loose. I've never seen it.
There's a orangutan called Clyde in it.
Oh, okay, cool. Anyway, so what about Clint Eastwood's film Every Which Way But Loose? And Sheinberg said, that's an orangutan, not a chimp. He got chimp-splained too. That was a Neil joke. The chimp-splained too. I didn't do that joke.
Your delivery really reveals that, David.
There you go. Yeah. Sheinberg also didn't like the title and wanted it to be changed to Spaceman from Pluto. Much to Steinberg's and Gale's like, what the fuckery. But luckily, they were able to get in the big man,
Liam Neeson,
Steven Spielberg, who obviously had a bit of sway at the time, who was able to reply to it and say, "Lol, Sid, thanks for the most humorous memo, but we all got a kick out of it. Thanks, Steven." And that nipped that in the bud pretty quick. That fucking catastrophe.
What
Gotta love
flex.
ego. A lot of people may or may not know that the time machine might have been a fridge at first, but actually in early drafts, it was originally a room or a time chamber that Marty would be sent back in. It was changed to the fridge later on, but then nixed because they didn't want kids thinking they could travel through time by going into their own fridges. So they switched it to the DeLorean. Ford actually came up to the production and offered to give them a free Mustang. And Bob Gale was like, Doc doesn't drive a Mustang. And when I saw that, I was just like, that's awesome.
Well, it's funny because DeLorean went bust before the film came out. They went bust in 82. And so I guess it's probably cheaper for them to use a DeLorean, right, in 85. And it's funny because in 85 as well, John DeLorean himself was actually arrested in a cocaine deal, which is just...
Oh, man, that's
amazing.
A whole crazy story. But I mean, I think just because of the DeLorean being so unique and the metal paneling, they gave him a good storyline. I remember seeing that, and I'm like, oh, he even explained it away in the movie. So
Yeah, and
even though
also
it
a
got
company
cut
that's gone
short.
bust isn't going to sue you.
Yeah, they got-
Yeah,
and especially an owner who's literally in jail for being a massive cokehead. Although you might be able to get the mob on you, but anyway. Originally, as well, where there was no sequel plan, so because Zemeckis thought that final scene like a joke at the end so there was because no actors were signed, there was nothing planned. It was just camera, car flies at the camera, boom, and we're out. And then of course it made all the money and was the biggest film of the year. So most people know that Eric Stoltz was originally cast as Marty McFly and was let go quite early on to the proceedings. But did you know? Because I didn't know this. C. Thomas Howell was originally cast as Marty McFly for 2 weeks, even rehearsing with Crispin Glover and Lee Thompson. But then the film Mask in 1985, and I have no idea what that film is, it became a surprise hit, and the filmmakers decided already in rehearsals to recast with Stoltz and replace Howell.
two things, Neil. Can we explain who C. Thomas Howell is for the younger listeners?
He is an actor
Great.
who was in the Hitcher. The Hitcher.
Gotcha. And for the record, The Mask is a movie about a man with disfigurement issues.
So it's like the Elephant Man.
Elephant Man, basically. Eric Stoltz just played such a great, nuanced role in it that that's what impressed everyone.
Although Fox was Zemeckis' first choice, originally he was unavailable due to playing Alex Keaton on the sitcom Family Ties, which was a massive hit at the time. But Fox had an ironclad contract, so imagine a world where John Cusack, Charlie Sheen, Ralph Macchio, and Johnny Depp all auditioned for the role, but thankfully were unsuccessful. And the role went to Eric Stoltz.
Amazing.
Even worse.
Even worse.
I just wanted to throw in just a couple more auditions. So Ben Stiller also auditioned for the role, and John Cryer. I can see John Cryer doing it. It would have been his second film
Okay.
at the time, so it would have been before Pretty in Pink.
Mm-hmm. That's what I think of as that era. This
Yeah,
Pretty Pink
yeah.
Era.
And you know what? I can see Cryer. I mean, it's obviously not Michael J. Fox, but
Yeah.
he would have had that sort of, because at that point in his career, he would have still had like a little bit of sex appeal to him. He would have still been awkward, but he wouldn't have been like turned and warped into this Weasley character that we know him as in 2.5 Men.
From those names mentioned, I think probably Cusack would have been the best choice, don't you think?
I don't know, man.
I'm
I
sticking with
don't
Cryer.
think Cusack had that whimsical charm that Michael J. Fox has. Everyone else that you mentioned has different characteristics. Like Ben Stiller had probably that innocent vibe to him probably back then.
I can't even remember anything Ben Stiller did at that point in his career, to be
No,
honest.
neither.
It's very hard. I think of that movie where he held up the boombox. He played it pretty serious. Say anything.
Cameron Crowe's first film. No, yeah,
And
first
so
film.
like he's a little more innocent and quiet and inward. But he isn't fun and relatable. And then John Cryer, I think, is a little more goofy and fun, but he's still not cool like Michael J. Fox was.
And
able
that's
to
a
pull.
big no to Charlie Sheen, Johnny Depp, and Ralph Macchio as well for that role.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I think I'd rather have seen Johnny Depp than anybody else on that list, just to see what it was
Mm.
like. I mean, I'm going back. I'm thinking like Pirates of the Caribbean, Johnny Depp here. Like he's got comic chops. It could be fun.
Peak Johnny Depp.
Like, would this have been Johnny Depp after? When did A Nightmare on Elm Street come out? That was like 80.
83,
Anyway,
maybe?
it would have been around that kind of. Johnny Depp was he was sexy, man, back then.
Yeah, he was a sweetheart. So I
Yeah.
don't know.
He was
I
too
think
sexy to be Marty.
Maybe too sexy, yeah.
Maybe too sexy. Lee Thompson actually once mentioned that when they had the first ever table read when Stoltz was there, everyone was like laughing at the script and going, "Oh, that's a really good line." And Stoltz was sat there stony faced, and he said, and then someone said to him, "Well, what's wrong?" And he goes, "Well, everyone's laughing, but it's not a comedy. It's a tragedy. My whole family remembers a different history to what I do. It's really, really sad." Yeah, Stoltz was fired 6 weeks later.
That's why he got sacked. Yeah,
wow.
Just didn't get it,
Just-
unfortunately.
he didn't get it, man. He just didn't get it.
I mean, in
Yeah.
a way, though, he is actually right.
But they weren't making that film, Jose. That's like closer to like Donnie Darko or something, isn't it? Than the mainstream blockbuster that Back to
That
the
feels
Future
like
was.
that feels like the artist like trying to lean more into like award season than making the movie
Yes,
that's on the
yeah.
page.
He read the wrong script there.
Yeah, he did.
He read the room wrong as well, but apparently.
Dope. So casting wise, originally the Family Ties producers didn't even tell Fox that he'd been offered the role, which is naughty because I guess they were just like, don't tell him because he's like, he's gonna disappear off and be a huge actor because we know his potential. I love this that Jeff Goldblum and John Lithgow were both considered for Doc Brown. I mean, It wouldn't be the same movie. Can you imagine like either of those? Like Jeff
I can imagine
Goldblum?
Lithgow, fairly similar energy.
I'm only imagining Lithgow would be close to Christopher
Yeah.
Lloyd, not like the take that Goldblum would have on it. Like, you know what I mean? Like it would be something more like, more like his Jurassic Park role than it would be anything else, I think. Like, I mean, The Fly is far too serious. Jurassic Park, he's got a bit of levity in there. So, I mean, like, that's funny for me. I think that personally, that's quite funny. And also...
to the future.
Back to the future, like it's I mean, that would be fun. That would be really fun. Yeah, Melora Hardin also played the original Jennifer opposite Stoltz, but was there for only a day or so. She was too tall to act against the shorter Fox. So
should we enlighten viewers who she is?
You
They don't recognize
you
the
absolutely
name.
can give us a movie that she was in or a show.
She's Jan from The Office. She plays Steve Carell's love interest early in the seasons, so that's where you'll probably recognize her.
Ironically, I think it was a bit more than a couple of days, but because she was on there with Stoltz the whole time. But when Stoltz got fired, she was too tall to stand alongside Michael J. Fox.
Yeah, I don't know if I said that. I don't know if I made that clear when I said it. She was acting opposite Stoltz, and then when he left and Fox got fired, obviously Fox is a classic short person, she was far too tall.
Fucking Stoltz ruined her career as well, is what you're saying.
God damn, that guy. Also, Lee Thompson was cast as Lorraine McFly because she had acted opposite Stoltz, the original actor cast as Marty in The Wild Life. So weirdly, there's a lot of like Eric Stoltz connections here. I'm wondering if it's an agent thing. Like Stoltz's agent was just like, I'm going to stack the deck and just make a load of money off of like back end on this movie.
Well, it's funny. Think about it. What would happen if Stoltz never was cast originally? And how the cast would have been changed around from there.
Well, like if Cusack got it?
Yeah. Well, would it have been Lee Thompson? Yeah.
And I think Leah Thompson is pinnacle to that movie. Such a great role. Another fun fact, Christopher Lloyd was recommended for the part of Doc Brown to Zemeckis by producer Neil Canton, who had worked with Lloyd on The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai Across the Eighth Dimension.
Classic.
Yeah.
They sent Lloyd the script, but with aspirations of being a serious actor, he threw it in the trash. He was previously known for the TV show Taxi that aired from 1978 to 1983.
I got to jump in here, Jose. And do you know who he looks like in Taxi? A young Jake Johnson. If you look at Jake Johnson in New Girl and you look at Christopher Lloyd, they're like the spit of each other, man.
Jack Johnson, then the singer-songwriter.
The Hawaiian Surf singer-songwriter. No, Jake Johnson from New Girl.
He's brilliant.
So it's kind of like a lot of other comedians who want to be more serious. They're hesitant to get into these roles because if you think about it, he is a comedic presence in that movie. All about his expressions, his
Marty
overreacting, his eyes looking up.
1.21 gigawatts.
Yes. But Lloyd was convinced to take the part when he met Zemeckis, who impressed him when he explained the ideas for the movies and the whole the idea of Doc Brown.
Yeah, I think like the whole like Christopher Lloyd, because he was a theater actor, isn't he? And that's what he was like. Serious acting is theater acting, and Back to the Future, like movie actors aren't serious actors. So it's a good thing he changed that tune.
I mean, he got his most iconic role of his career out of it, didn't he?
Yeah, and I think he got a lot of work off the back of Back to the Future as well, right? Obviously, probably not in the realm that he wanted to be in, but he definitely he definitely pushed the envelope for like himself.
Yeah, I'd say arguably his second most famous role was Addams Family as Uncle
Interesting.
Fester.
I like 10 Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead. He plays the guy with leprosy, doesn't he? Fucking just banging.
The Dream Team with Michael Keaton as well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Well, anyway, some fun facts and some IMDb claims that you can find out there on like Wikipedia and stuff like that. So take it all with a pinch of salt, this stuff. Crispin Glover was so nervous at one point he lost his voice and had to loop the scenes later on in film. So, well, that definitely added to George's nervous energy.
Yeah, he was nervous that he was losing his voice and he was blowing the movie, and it just added to George McFly's like,
I can get that.
Oh, gee, well, Lorraine, I don't really know.
I mean, do you reckon they knew that as a directors? They were like, do you know what? It works for the role. Let's go with it. And like he's just like having a breakdown on set, and they're like, no, it's great because you could do that back in the old days. You could terrify people. You could.
Yeah,
that person down. Great, put the camera on him.
But also, like he was like, could you tell with Crispin Glover because he's so method that like you're just like, oh no, he's just completely in character right now. This guy's fucking absolutely shit himself, but that's because he's supposed to be.
Now, here's a fun fact I found out that it's from the commentary as well, that the Johnny B. Good scene was almost cut because Zemeckis thought it slowed the film down. And it was only an editor who said, no, keep it in for the test screenings. And obviously, it absolutely kills there. See? Editors. The unsung heroes of the movie industry.
Oh.
And also, the whole
I mean,
post-production
hang
process
on,
of the film.
editors get an Oscar, right? There's a category for Oscar.
The irony is, most years, it gets edited off the main broadcast.
That is,
Ha!
Yeah,
that
it
is
has
ironic.
recently been,
That
hasn't
is.
it?
Now, you think how long films take to edit these days, right? Back to the Future, from the second it was done, so from the second it was like finished filming to being completely sound mixed, special effects, edited, everything, 9.5 weeks,
Amazing.
which was
That's
absolutely
so fast.
unprecedented at the time. That time, and also 9.5 weeks was an erotic thriller in the 80s, starring Kim Basinger.
Did that like inspire the movie?
Probably not. In probably
What else?
no way those films are connected at all.
What else can we do with 9.5 weeks?
Ooh. I never saw that movie, actually.
Yeah, you're not missing out.
All right. In the 2010 reunion, Fox mentioned even in a remote jungle in Bhutan, some monks pointed at him and said, Marty McFly. Fans also reckon there are 2 shots of Eric Stoltz still in the film, one of which is when Marty dives into the DeLorean near the start and when Biff goes to punch Marty in the diner. I can confirm the diner scene because I've seen interviews where they say, yes, that is still Stoltz's shoulder. For those of you who don't know about the deleted scenes, there's a homeless man on the bench in 1985 when Marty McFly returns. He's actually the former mayor from 1955 named Red Thomas. You see his car drive by early in the film when he goes back to 1955.
Hill Valley in 85 isn't like the utopia it's made out to be, is it? Really?
No,
It's a
not at all.
shithole, man.
Yeah. But I love that the mayor ends up becoming homeless. I mean, that is like to David's what mentioned earlier on. I can't remember if it was actually when we were recording or not, but it was pre-pod. But David mentioned earlier that are there political overtones of this movie? And it's like, well, I mean, if the guy, like, you know, the rich white guy is now like a homeless dude, like, I'm like, maybe there are some political overtones that are just slightly embedded there that aren't, you know, that aren't obvious.
Yeah, is that how do we know that he is the Red Thomas?
Because Jose said.
What is there in the film that says that it is him?
Remember the car that it says re-elect so-and-so, Red Thomas?
Yeah.
no,
But
I
how do we
think
know the
David's-
homeless man? How do we know the homeless
It's the
man?
same
is Red
actor.
Thomas? Oh, was it?
It was the same actor. He had his photograph on the car.
Oh,
Interesting. That is something I
okay.
never knew. That's really good.
Yeah, I like that one. That's great. Yeah.
All right. Did you know that Back to the Future was the slowest film to make $200 million, taking 232 days to do so, even though it was the number 1 film of 1985. And by modern maths, it would have actually made $492 million. That is with calculating for inflation, I assume, not just because more people would watch it.
Or more people have got better at maths.
Yeah, because of that.
That's a lot of money for a fun little film.
Yeah, I mean, like, I you know what I didn't do is check how much it may cost to make. That would have been a really good comparison.
You know, it's interesting though. I think that Back to the Future probably didn't cost that much because aside from the transition scenes of him going through time, there really aren't many effects, and there's only maybe that stunt scene from him being chased around by Biff. Everything else is just a lot of conversations.
That's
Yeah,
true.
there's the flying like DeLorean at the end that would have cost a bit of bob, and then there's the lightning strike that would have cost a bit of bob. You know,
A bit of
there's
Bob.
little
just-
bobs.
a bit of
There's
bob.
little bobs here and there.
Kiss.
Just a bit of bumps.
It's I mean, spenny for any millennials listening, or you know, very expensive for any Americans listening. What else? The to be continued card was only added for VHS and wasn't in the cinemas. At that point, no actors were confirmed. I think you said that earlier on. No actors were confirmed for the sequel. Still, they'd been fairly hopeful that there was going to be a sequel. So that card at the end, to be continued, was only added for the home release, which is quite interesting.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember if I ever saw that. I feel like I've seen that card on the film when I've seen it sometimes.
Oh, I remember seeing it.
It's on the first time. I remember the first time I saw it. Like, I mean, yeah, it was there. But yeah, and what else? It was banned in China. The movie was banned in China because it was deemed time travel was deemed disrespectful to history. Only
How
China.
dare they?
God
How
damn
can you
it!
Not to
disrespect
mothers.
history that way?
I mean, disrespect
Yo.
history. It's already happened. You can't change that shit.
No, but you can disrespect it, apparently.
You can disrespect it.
Doc and Lorraine only ever shared one scene together. in the entire film, and that was when she stalks Marty home and then goes and meets up with him then. But there is a deleted scene of Lorraine cheating on a test, which is just before the kick me moment with George, and where he's like, "He's your father? Yeah, are you sure? Weren't you adopted?" That scene where they're together in that scene, and they pass Doc by saying, "Well, I got an F anyway." And in that scene that was cut, the DOP, Dean Cundy's son, is the bloke that's sitting right next to her. So he was also cut from the film, which is sad for the DOP son.
That would be my luck if I'm ever in a movie, I'll get cut.
Crispin Glover has only seen this film once, and he didn't return for the sequel, so he might not have liked it that much. And he successfully sued over his image rights being used in the film, which brought in new rules. I don't know what new rules. Can anyone elaborate on the new rules?
Basically, you can't use someone's likeness without their permission, because there was a picture of him in the paper in the second one, and then also they had the guy who was supposed to be him, and they just said, "Oh, it's old George," and then threw all the old makeup on him to make him look like an older version. So they were still making him look like. I think there was just a lot of stuff that they hadn't thought of at that point, and when he didn't strike a deal to come back, obviously as well, he was a bit of a nightmare to deal with on set because Crispin Glover is famously a bit of a psychopath.
He's difficult, yeah.
They contract people for likeness now, don't they? When you sign a contract, it's like if we decide to not move forward with you as an artist, the contract you sign says, and if we want to use any of your previous stuff that we've already got, then we can do that, which you can contest in your contract. So like it's done a lot of it's made a lot of like litigious stuff like a little bit easier to navigate, I think.
Many of Biff's catchphrases were improvised by him, and I think also in one of the earlier scripts, Butthead wasn't his catchphrase, it was a-hole.
Nice.
Butthead's
way better.
Early Star-Lord.
Butthead is way better, yeah.
But he does, like, what were some of his catchphrases? Because I was literally watching this movie today, and I realised that one of his catchphrases that runs through all three movies is, "Looky what we got here." And I was like, oh God, that's another catchphrase I hadn't noticed. Because obviously it's like, hello, McFly, that's like another one.
Think, McFly, think.
Think, McFly, think.
I love how deadpan he plays everything. Like, all the jokes are just so deadpan.
Yeah, because he's playing like a fucking narcissistic bully.
He's so good. And apparently, a test screening was screened, and that didn't have the ILM finished FX on the end sequence, and no one gave a shit, and it went down a storm. And why the fuck wouldn't it? Because it's Back to the Future.
Is that scene? Do they mean the flying DeLorean?
I'm assuming it's the flying. I don't know what it would have been.
Iconic.
Would it have been like a stick, like a stick on a paint, like a tennis ball or something? Like, is that what they'd have seen at the end?
Or the 80s version of a stick and a tennis ball was probably a bit of string.
Just the crane shot of the street.
Nothing there. Yeah,
where we're going, we don't need roads, and it just fucking just goes out onto nothing. It's like, oh, all right.
It took 3 hours to make 23-year-old Lee Thompson into 47-year-old Lorraine.
Only 3 hours. Actors are in makeup for so long now.
It didn't look.
I think they did her dirty as well, man. Like Leah Thompson now is stunning still, and when she's in that makeup, she looks really old and haggard.
Well, I think that's the purpose.
It's good makeup. That's what
it's good makeup, I suppose. Yeah, but man, like the makeup team did her dirty, considering now she is.
I noticed that even Christopher Lloyd looked pretty old. Like with the skin, you could tell that they put stuff on his skin to make him look old in the 85 scenes.
Christopher Lloyd was the same age as I am now when he made Back to the Future.
Man,
amazing!
That's wild.
So you can still do it now. You can still be a movie star.
There you go.
I believe in you.
It's never too late.
Don't forget to come back on the podcast and do us an interview though when you are.
He'll go back in time with his DeLorean.
Don't forget where you started.
Oh, shove out his stupid DeLorean. Neil is the only person that's not allowed back in time. I keep saying it.
So the DeLorean was also specifically picked because it could appear to be a spacecraft in 1955, like when that kid shows his dad the comic book cover. So the fact that the door opened was just a great opportunity there.
And another Eric Stoltz story.
Eric Stoltz almost broke Tom Wilson's collarbone before he was fired when in an early scene. Wilson said he planned to get him back in the car park scene, but he was fired before then. I also know about there's an interview where Wilson admits to being called into the office because he thought he was going to be fired for the altercation. But that was actually when he was told of Stoltz firing.
So I want some context there. I'm like, so Eric Stoltz just tried to kick Biff Tannen's ass?
The scene corridor when he shoves him for the first time in the lunchroom.
Yeah.
That's the
We
scene
did that.
where we're doing it.
Yeah,
And he
Stoltz was doing it properly hard, and he started bruising Thomas Wilson.
Thomas
Whoa.
And Wilson's like, "Look, calm it down. And look how massive he is compared to him as well, right?
Yeah.
right.
And he just took it. He's like, and he's like, do you know what? It's fine. I'm not going to react. But later on, there's a scene where I get to pummel him, and I'm actually going to pummel him. And he got fired before it.
Receipt. That's brutal.
Michael J. Fox also said that Marty's being characterized as riding skateboards, chasing girls, and interest in playing music with hopes of becoming a rock star was the exact same way he was during his own high school days.
Yeah, badass.
I mean,
that's why everyone.
I can see that as Michael J. Fox for sure.
And every teenager probably still today.
Yeah.
No, teenagers today don't have strong role models like Michael J. Fox. I honestly think that, honestly, like that, or that character, like, yeah, he was the wrong side of the tracks kind of kid, like growing up, but like he's a loser that makes good. Like now, what have you got? You got like the Kardashians or like PewDiePie. You know what I mean? I'm like, don't know, man. It's different.
That's
Different
a very
generation.
specific group of people.
Cool.
And you've been told, Jose.
Yes. Also, gigawatts is now an obscure but once used pronunciation of the proper way of saying gigawatt. But back then, people didn't know science, so they just kind of thought they used things the way they thought would be funny.
And Ben, you've got a bit from a Lee Thompson interview from 2018.
Oh yeah,
A bit of advice she was given when she was a young actress.
This is great. She said when she was starting out as a young actress in Hollywood, a quote unquote very famous agent assessed her options. She said, she told me, "Here's your career, Leo. Virgins, whores, and mothers." End quote. Thompson recalled with a laugh. And then I realised why Back to the Future is such a great part, because I got to play a virgin, a whore, and a mother all in one movie.
Hey,
I mean, that is lemons into lemonade right there.
Hollywood in the 80s sounds like a fucking awful place as well.
Oh god,
this is what you'll play.
This is it. We're just Scarface level of like cocaine everywhere and just like bad fucking examples.
That's all you're good for, Ben, is to play whores.
I'll take it.
Mothers.
Yep.
And the occasional virgin.
Absolutely, I'll do them all.
That's it, man. That's all you.
I don't think I can see him as the last one.
Yeah.
Imagine being told that, man. That's so fucking
That's
shit.
brutal, isn't it? It's like
She was probably like, literally like 18 or something when the agent's like starting off, because wasn't her first film the one with Tom Cruise, the American football one, All the Right Moves?
All the Right Moves. I didn't know that was her first film. That's amazing.
I think it was her first film. I got a feeling it was.
Because she's like the queen of Hallmark right now. She does all those those Hallmark movies. So I'm like, yeah, she does loads of them. The parts of the script with references to Ronald Reagan needed to be reviewed by the White House for approval, so as not to offend the president. Producers had some concerns over Reagan's reaction to Doc Brown's famous line mocking the improbability of his being president in 1985. But Reagan was said to get, quote, a kick out of it, which is
the actor?
Ronald Reagan? The actor?
While filming the parking scene, with Marty and a young, Marty and a young Lorraine in the car. We all know the scene. It's the incest scene, right? We'll call it what it is. It's the incest scene.
It's the Game of Thrones scene.
Crew decided to play a practical joke on MJ Fox. The scene called for Fox to drink from a prop liquor bottle filled with water, and to do a spit take when he sees Lorraine with the cigarette. For a specific take, however, the prop liquor bottle was switched with a real one which contained real alcohol. So Fox, unaware of this, performed the scene, drank the bottle, and everyone had a good laugh afterwards. And you can see it in the outtakes of the section on the DVD. And this movie holds the record of staying at number 1 at the box office for 3 solid months.
Wow, you would not get that.
Quite impressive, man. Yeah,
quite right.
3 months, man. There is another Leah Thompson story here, and it's that she kept the dress that she wore during the Charming Under the Sea high school dance, and she still has it in her possession to this day. And her daughter, actress Zoe Deutsch, revealed that she once took the dress and wore it for Halloween, after which she basically got a massive bollocking from her mum over it.
That's fucking brilliant. That's great. Good on her.
Also, in the original script, Marty's playing rock and roll at the dance caused a riot, which had to be broken up by the police. This combined with Marty accidentally tipping Doc off to the secret ingredient that made the time machine work, which was Coke back then, Coca-Cola, not the Hollywood standard variety, which caused history to change. Then when Marty got back to the 1980s, he found it was now the 1950s conception of that decade with air cars and whatnot, all invented by Doc Brown and running on Coca-Cola. Marty also discovers that rock and roll was never invented, and he dedicates himself to starting the delayed Cultural Revolution. Meanwhile, his dad digs out the newspaper from the day after the dance, which was what we mentioned earlier, and sees his son. Oh no, this is different. Another different one, and sees a picture of his son in the riot. I mean, that's a very different ending again, isn't it?
It's a different, it's a different middle and ending.
It's
Yeah.
It's a
Like,
different
that's totally
film
different.
altogether. That one,
Do you
yeah.
reckon that was-
He has to He has to create rock music.
Do you think that was scratched when Pepsi signed on as like the quite clear fucking product placement?
Oh.
Yeah, definitely.
They were like, oh no, we can't do. We just changed it for Pepsi. It's fine. Nah, it doesn't have the same ring to it. Let's do something different.
Let's just change the whole fucking script.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Coca-Cola in that future, they must have been minted. Like, I mean, they're not poor now. Like Warren Buffett, I bet he was a well-off man.
Yeah.
He's still a well-off man, but anyway.
Well off, man.
Yeah.
Still goes to McDonald's every day for some
Nick
reason.
Offerman.
Fucking psychopath.
Nick Offerman. I'm going to start with something that's not in the script.
What? No, you can't. That throws out the space-time continuum.
Leah Thompson's first IMDb credit is actually a video game mystery disc Murder Anyone. And then that's right before her first accredited movie role.
Which
You
was?
want to guess? Jaws 3D.
Oh, dear.
1983. Right before All the Right Moves. The first episode of The Twilight Zone in 1959, Where Is Everybody?, opened with a young man wandering a town square in confusion, asking himself, is he having a bad dream? The sequence not only greatly resembles Marty's arrival in Hill Valley of the 1955 in the movie, but it was also shot on the same courthouse square backlot at Universal Studios. So hence, it does look like the same on purpose.
I've got a few little nuggets to connect with one of my other greatest films of all times.
You're a little nugget.
Oh, cheers. Gremlins from 1984. So Frances Lee McCain, who plays Lorraine's mother, Stella Baines, also plays Billy's mother, Lynn Peltzer, in Gremlins. And I never realised that until I was researching for this episode. And yet they were two of my favourite films. And I've watched them both multiple times already this year. And I was like, just did not realise they've got the same mother. Like Martha in Batman and Superman. Martha.
Well, our mums are the same. Let's be best friends.
When the character of Doc is first introduced at the Twin Pines Mall, he is wearing, and I still didn't notice this on the rewatch through, a Gremlins notebook on his left attached to his belt.
No way.
Way.
What?
Yes, way.
That's fucking
And
great.
the man driving the Jeep, to which Marty hangs onto at the beginning of the movie, is, which makes perfect sense if you think about it, the stunt coordinator, Walter Scott.
Nice. Yeah, that does
I
make sense.
wondered who that was because there was like a clear moment where he's looking back, and it's like
Safety
it's
first,
clearly like
folks.
it's perfect cameo moment that
He's probably
someone's
just
had.
like, this kid's had no sleep in like 3 months. Let's just hope he doesn't fall off and fucking die.
Yeah, like how much insurance did they have for that? Probably nothing. It was the 80s.
So, like I said earlier, Tom Wilson Biff has his own frequently asked question card that says, yes, I'm Tom Wilson. Yes, Biff from Back to the Future. Michael J. Fox is nice. No, I'm not in close contact with him. Christopher Lloyd is nice. Leah Thompson is nice. Crispin Glover is unusual, but not as unusual as he sometimes presents himself. Eric Stoltz originally played Marty, but was fired due to performance issues. We had a couple of personal issues, but it's all fine now. Did you know that he also performs this as a song? And I
No.
actually quite like this song. I've seen it. It's great, actually. And he had a
Neil's
lot
the
of
only
crowd
person that
interaction.
doesn't know about the song. This is brilliant.
I am shocked that Neil does not know
He
about
does it on
musical.
TV all the time. Like, so just to give like what Jose was saying, a little bit more context there. Like when you meet the actor Tom Wilson, if you ask him about Back to the Future, he just hands you this card and it has all these things written on it. So like he hands you that card and it's like, yes, I'm Biff. And it's signed on one side and it says all these things on the other side. So it saves him a lot of time of fucking around. But he also plays those things. He plays this thing as a song, which I think David is going to give us a demonstration.
Oh,
of
I'm
right
going to
now.
give you a little bit of the song because I
There
find
we
it. I just
go.
think it's excellent.
Eh.
Can we take your picture? Come on, look mean. Would you call my friend Butthead on his answering machine? Stop asking me the question. It's better with the guitar riff and everything. Like, it's just.
Very good.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
You should have done the theme tune, man.
Anyway, I love that song.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
David, as we're on music,
So Back to the Future was also nominated for 4 Oscars,
fucking right, should have
including
been.
original screen. It should have been more.
Should
More
have been
now.
nominated for all of them. But
All of them.
4. So we only got the 4, which is Anyway, original screenplay, best sound. There you go. Best Sound Effects, Editing, and Best Original Song.
How could it not win?
Did it not win?
Bearing in
No.
mind, Back to the Future screenplay is taught in many colleges as an example of the perfect screenplay. It lost
Agreed.
out to Witness.
Fuck you, Harrison Ford.
Oh,
Any
God.
Amish.
Just because it was all edgy and clever. Ugh.
Best Sound, it lost out to Out of Africa.
Yeah.
Bloody Meryl Streep.
Damn Meryl Streep.
The Power of Love lost out to sodding Lionel Richie's Say You, Say Me from White Nights, a film I have no idea what it even is anymore. White Nights?
Anyone?
Anyone
I've
know?
never
No
even
idea.
heard of that movie.
Never heard of it.
Nope.
Fucking Lionel Richie as well.
But it did win one, according to Wikipedia.
Yay!
Which is, Wikipedia is always right. Best Sound Effects Editing, beating Lady Hawk and Rambo 2.
Not
Those
exactly
sound
a
effects,
small wins,
competition there,
small
is it?
wins.
Fucking Rambo 2 was just explosions every 3 minutes, and Sylvester Stallone go. "Duh!"
And Lady Hawk, I'm guessing, was lots of
Yeah,
Hawk noises.
hawks and ladies like hanging out. So yeah, Back to the Future. Oh, what a travesty! They should have won so many more Oscars.
I mean,
Okay.
screenplay is the one there. Like, how
Yeah.
did it not win screenplay, man?
I
And
feel like
actually,
Christopher
best song
Lloyd-
as well, because that song's
Yeah,
awesome.
come on.
And Say You,
Yeah.
Say Me
Oh,
is it's fine.
It's trash in
from a
comparison.
film that no one
Ten.
ever remembers.
God damn.
Right, well, guys, I think that's a solid 7.5 hours on stuff that we may or may not have known about Back to the Future, and hopefully you, listener, now do know about Back to the Future. But now we're going to get a little bit more personal, and that question is: when did you first watch it, and why do you keep going back to it all the time? And I'm going to start. I didn't know.
Oh, it's my podcast. I'm going to start.
I'm going to answer my
If
own
I had a
question.
time machine, I'd go back and rewrite the script.
So, this film didn't come out on VHS until December 1986. That is over a year since the cinema. Can you imagine waiting that long these days?
Yeah, like on the script, you said that like that's shocking. In the 80s, it was that was quick.
That would
was
be
like-
up to 2 years sometimes, right?
Yeah, like I remember waiting for Who Framed Roger Rabbit to come out, and it was like in the cinema, and it was like it felt like it was like 5 years later that it came out on VHS over here, because in the States they came out quicker, but like over here we had to wait for fucking ever before they came out.
I want to say, yeah, in the States, it would take at least a year, maybe two, for the
Yeah.
VHSs to come out.
Well, because films like Back to the Future, it wasn't a secondary market. Like, it wouldn't go on TV until it had the VHS release. So TV releases were like 3-4 years down the line from when
Yeah.
a big film was at the cinema. So I'm not sure I ever bought it on VHS at the time, because I would have been 8, and like I'm pretty sure as an 8-year-old you don't have enough pocket money to buy a VHS. I'm pretty sure like tapes back then were like at least 10-15 quid,
Yeah.
perhaps more. I think. I just don't know. I don't know. I was 8, man. I
And
have
also,
no
like,
idea.
and video recorders weren't exactly like fucking popular over here because they were super expensive. They were like
Yeah,
hundreds.
like
of
no
pounds.
one had. Yeah, it wasn't like everyone had a DVD player or everyone had a VHS player at that point.
It was hundreds of pounds when hundreds of pounds was a lot of money. So like that's tricky.
I think for me, probably the first time I saw it was when it was broadcast on TV over one Christmas. You know, like I think Ben and probably Jose were saying to this. I don't know, Ben especially, because obviously we was both born in the UK. Certain films you think of as Christmas films because they would be played on TV in the UK every Christmas. That's where we first probably saw the Indiana Jones films as kids, Star Wars, and the Back to the Future films. And so, for our overseas listeners of a certain age, imagine a time, if you will, where there was only 4 TV channels, and they weren't even on 24 hours a day. They would stop at midnight and be like, "Oh well, that's it. Go to sleep, everyone. No TV for you." And then the news would start again at like 7. So I'm certain I recorded it off the TV and then would just fast forward through the adverts. In fact, I do remember watching it before I went to school on many, many mornings, so much so that the tape wore out, and then I think I finally did have to buy it on VHS.
Damn.
Also, does anyone ever remember when they're watching it on TV in the UK, the line right at the end where he goes, "What, do we turn into arseholes or something?" being cut from TV edits?
Yeah.
Or it was changed to something else, like, "What do we turn into?"
No, I think they cut it out completely. I think he just said you got to do something about your kids, and I think it's like it flashes back to Marty and Jennifer looking like confused, and then goes straight back to Doc. I don't think they even bothered, because I
Yeah, I
remember
think that line,
we've talked about these like ridiculous edits where they've like changed like
Muddy Funster.
Muddy Funster in the Die Hard movies, or God, Mother Liquor and stuff like that. Just really ridiculous nonsense that they would just like just edit over the top of movies.
That probably would have been that was a bit more Sun Liquor. Probably would have been the one in this one. To be fair.
Yeah, probably. But I do remember that being the case.
I've also lost track of the amount of times I've bought this on DVD. Like I bought it every time it's been released in a different version. I've bought it, like regular DVD, Blu-ray, 4K, and now the 4K Steelbox, like limited edition Japanese set, which looks amazing as well.
Here's a question: how is the 4K upgrade? Like, I've heard some situations where it's not great.
Well, right, it depends on what you want from a 4K upgrade on old films. Like, there's all the controversy in a minute because Cameron's Aliens has come out and he's basically got rid of all the grain in it and digitally erased it. And then a lot of people are like, no, but it's of the time, the grain should stay there. And I'm not sure how I feel on that because I haven't seen the new remaster of Aliens and all. I think old films should stay as they are. I don't think you should really get rid of the grain in that because it's shot on film. You've got the grain on the film. It gives it that look. It gives it that feel. If you're just removing that from an old film, it seems like a hell of a lot of work for not a lot of people that are really going to give a shit. To be fair, so just go back to the original negatives and just do the best cleaning up you can, but don't digitally replace stuff. Don't fucking George Lucas it is what I'm saying. Don't put fucking walkie talkies in ET, you motherfucker. On October 15th, 2015, the date of the future in Back to the Future 2, my local cinema in Milton Keynes at the time was showing the whole trilogy back to back. And so that was the first time I got to see the original and Back to the Future 2 in the cinema. I don't know why I didn't see 2 in the cinema when it first came out, but probably being a kid and also not having a cinema in Dover at the time, that's probably why. I don't think my dad even drove at that point either, so that's another reason, because I think our nearest cinema was probably Canterbury at that point. I did actually see Back to the Future 3 in the cinema when my parents were away on holiday visiting family in Liverpool, and I definitely remember going to that. It was like an old Odeon they had there at the time. But here's a big crux. Why do I go back to it, though, and why is it my favourite film? And it's so hard to put that down and articulate it when I was trying to think about it. I'd say, one, it's the one film I've watched more than any other. In the days of channel surfing, if it's on, you would always stay and watch the rest of the film. I think, actually, that Johnny B. Good scene must have subconsciously made me want to play guitar at the time. Because I remember picking up a guitar from this old lady across the street who was like, had an old guitar that she was giving away. And I think when she passed away, it was like, oh, Neil can have it, but you've got to take lessons and learn to play guitar.
You got a haunted guitar?
A haunted guitar. Spanish haunted guitar, yeah.
I've known you for years. I didn't know that.
I've still got it in the loft, man. It plays Spanish ghost music sometimes. Honestly, it's so well written as well for kids and adults. Like, if you're a kid watching it like we were, you got the flying car, you got the time travel event, you got like the cool bits of the skateboarding, you got the power of loving it, which was cool at the time. I think it's the first film that made me look at America and go, wow, this place looks so cool. Like, I'd never seen skateboarding before. We didn't have we did have Burger King, but we didn't in where we lived. They were like, no. What even was a Burger King? As in a kid in the 80s, your world is so small. I think all we had in my hometown back then, at best, was like local fish and chip shops and a Wimpy, which no one meant to, because even then, we realised it was shit back then. So as an impressionable 8-year-old, I think it just blew my mind in terms of like cool characters and concepts. And we all wanted to be Marty McFly, right?
Still do.
So yeah, the time travel stuff doesn't really stand up to scrutiny in terms of the overall narrative if you try and dive in and like pick holes in it. But I don't care. And the film doesn't care either, because it's propulsive and it's fun. So you just accept every bit of tech speak Doc tells you and you enjoy the film. And I'm going to have a drink.
You enjoy that drink. I will answer the question as well of when I
from
first
the person who
it.
Probably likes it the least out of everyone on it.
Yeah, well, if you guys,
dare
it's your
you.
number one film, and I don't know where it is on Jose's list, but I think, did he say it was his number one as well? Jose?
No, I said it's up there. I would
It's up
say
there. Fair enough.
definitely top 10. Top 5 would be a tough struggle.
I was about, don't tell us yet, Jose, because that'll be an episode at some point, because we've done ours and we haven't done yours.
Ooh,
Yeah,
yeah,
good
we gotta
episode.
do that.
So,
We gotta do that.
I honestly don't remember the moment where I first sat down and watched this movie. And I do kind of envy you two, like, or you guys, Neil. I don't know if Ben, if you're going to say that you do, but that you have that moment of seeing this film for the first time, because it just seemed to just always be there. Like, it's always just been a part of my existence in a way, which is kind of cool, right? That it's just sort of, I was born into a world where Back to the Future already existed. And I think, and I could have just watched it at any point in my life, and it was there. And I like that. I think that's really that's quite neat.
Well, that kind of comes into what I was saying, mate, doesn't it? Where it was on TV all the time growing up.
Just everywhere, man. Yeah.
Because it was part of the social zeitgeist. It was like, it set a lot of standards, and it was like, it was like Neil said, it was good for kids, good for adults. So it was constantly put on TV. But yeah, like carry on, David. You were born into a world when Back to the Future was still was a
Yeah,
thing.
it became timeless. And again, I'd be lying if I said I watched it every year. I mean, I didn't even have it on DVD for this podcast. I had to go and buy a new DVD specifically for the podcast because I left my one. I do have it, so now I own two. But my original one was left at my parents' house when I moved out around 7 years ago. So I've not watched it on a DVD for at least 7 years, but I'm sure it's just been on the telly at some point, or it's been somewhere and I've watched it because I must have seen it, in the last 7 years. So yeah, I would have been sitting back, hot cup of cocoa, and every time it comes on, you watch it. And I always sort of ask the question as well when you do watch it, like, would you have actually been friends with my dad or my mum in school? And yeah, I probably would not have been. Don't know about you guys. Would you have been friends with your parents?
Can you please elaborate? Were your parents cooler than you, or were you cooler than
No,
them?
well, my dad was like really into fishing. I don't care for fishing, and he liked cricket, and like he still likes cricket, and I'm like, yeah, that's a sport.
It's a little bit unfair because my dad looked like he had massive long hair, and he looked like Chris Cornell when he was in his like teens and early 20s.
Isn't that what you look like?
No.
Ben
doesn't have to laugh as much here. It'd be a shame if you choked on a chicken finger.
Yeah, I won't know.
Well, let's jump to Jose because Ben's eating chicken fingers. So, Jose.
Chicken fingers.
So I think I'm kind of like an interesting little between David and Neil, where I absolutely love this movie, but I actually didn't watch it that much aside from my childhood. And what's interesting is I first watched this off of VHS that my uncle recorded off of his TV. And what just threw me off completely is that the VHS starts at the reveal of the DeLorean. So I have almost no context for present day in the movie. And I just see it as a movie where this kid goes to talk to his scientist for some reason. And he goes back in time and happens to bump into his family or his parents. And then that all led to the ending just being really off for me. Like, oh yeah, he's in this nice home, but some reason his parents he's reacting weirdly to them, and his brother and sister are just like, yeah, this is what I wear to the office. And I'm like, okay, so he wears a suit to the office. What's the big deal? So for the longest time, I never really knew the beginning until I started seeing stuff on the internet, and I'm like, wait a minute. And then I bought the DVD as an adult in college. And then that's when I was like, okay, now I'm fully into this universe now. And it just made everything, obviously it made everything so much better. Like the whole, like, cause like, especially, here's another one. When he shows the picture of his brother and sister, I'm like, who are these people? And why are they disappearing? I had no context. So it was just like, I had a really weird relationship with the movie, but I still loved it because it was just.
Do you know what, Jose? It shows you, doesn't it, that the film is that good that you had no context for the stakes of what was at stake in it.
Yeah.
You're just like, he just needs to get home, right? Yeah.
Right? Yeah, he just needs to get home. Oh, he has this.
That's weird. Why is his hand disappearing? That's probably not important.
That just happens to all time travelers.
Yeah, I mean, I think what it is it allowed me, I think, honestly, Doc Brown is my favorite character because there's so much more from him in the past that I feel like you just see him because you don't really get much of him in the beginning of the movie. So I just kind of latched onto him and his funniness. And as a kid, I loved his outlandish character. And then Michael J. Fox was obviously cool, but I don't know, it just didn't hit as much. So
you related more to the 46-year-old scientist.
I get that.
Yes.
I can see it.
Yes, I loved it. But like, unlike you guys, I don't think it was ever put on TV for the holidays. It was just a movie that people enjoyed. It wasn't really put on TV very often. So I just watched it off of my VHS. And then even then, like I said, I only watched it a couple times as a child. I loved it, but I just didn't really have a religious viewing of it afterwards. So I think that's how great of a film it is. It just stayed with me, even though I didn't watch it obsessively.
Nice. You're just about still on the podcast, Jose.
You know, Jose, that's actually made me think. With your religious viewing comment, do you know how like there's a lot of religions that have been made about, like Star Wars, for instance, Jedi is an actual religion now. Is there a religion on Back to the Future?
The cult of the flux capacitor, yes, there is.
Like a religion that's been created.
That's amazing, and I'm joining now.
Yeah.
Wow.
You're all charter members, it's fine. We just need to get the laser lotus thing cleared from Dan Harmon, and then we're good to go. Mr. Chicken Fingers,
Mr. Ben Lord.
Captain Chicken Fingers to you.
Captain Chickenlingers, Ben Tannen.
All right, so I'm pretty sure that I watched this for the first time when it came to TV. Now I'm a few years younger than Neil, even though we've known each other for 1,000 years. So when it was released in the cinema in 1985, I would have been 4 or 5 years old. And I vividly remember as a kid watching a clip for it on morning TV. It must have been when they were doing their VHS release. And it was the part where DeLorean is revealed from the truck. And it's like one of my favorite movies, I guess, as a kid was Ghostbusters. And I think I was on the rewatch, I noticed that part of the movie, when they turn the DeLorean on, you get like an ecto, like, no, not an ecto, but a proton pack. That kind of proton pack sort of noise, that like ching as it sort of starts. And then the music is really like plinky, like the very beginning of Ghostbusters, like
Yeah.
and I was like, so it triggered a lot of stuff in my brain of just like, oh, fuck it, I love that Ghostbusters movie. Like, what's this? And then the dry ice as it comes out of the back of the trailer. And I was like, oh my God, what is this movie?
And then Gosar steps out.
And then, yeah, right. It's like, yeah, it wasn't that at all. But they pull the car comes out of the back of the trailer, and it's like Marty McFly and Doc are there, and they were doing an interview with Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd, and it was like, yeah, the movie's coming out, and I was like, I got on my mum, and I was like, what is this movie? I have to see it. And she must have looked at it and gone, nah, you're not old enough to watch that.
You're
and
5.
You know, like, yeah, I would have been 6 when it came out. I would have been 6 when that came out. So I had to wait until it came onto TV. And I think, because I actually went out for dinner with my mum yesterday, and I brought this up with her, and she was like, I don't remember that at all. I feel really terrible now. Like, it's one of your favorite movies. And I was like, look, don't worry about it. Like, it's a thing. And, you know, she was right to say no. It was, you know, I was too young to watch the movie, I guess. But like, when it did come to TV and I finally saw it, it blew my mind to pieces. Like the opening scene, like it's perfection incarnate, in my opinion. And I remember just being glued to it, like for the whole thing, like having proper like emotional reactions, like little kid emotional reactions to stuff, like really, really vibing with the character of Marty McFly, because, you know, I came from like a downtrodden sort of family, and this was a story about a loser that could turn his life around if you just made a couple of different choices, or like if you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything, right? It's like kind of like the motto of
George's
the movie.
mantra.
Yeah. So when I was finally allowed to watch the movie, I think because I wasn't allowed to watch it in the first instance, and because then when I did watch it, it was so good, like it built this like expectation in my mind that it completely fulfilled and exceeded. Like as a kid, I didn't know that movies could be like that good. You know, so yeah, it was a huge deal when I watched it. I mean, the like I said, the opening scene, I genuinely think this is like, you'll never top this as an opening scene for a movie. Like you get incredible flow with things like the way that the camera travels across the clocks into like a cool setup of this kid with a skateboard, which I'd only just really sort of noticed, and then like started to figure out what skateboards were through the rise of sort of MTV, that you would start to get flashes off in the UK, but I didn't have MTV. So, you know, like we got this kind of like look into like the American like side of things that you never sort of got before as a kid. You know, then you get this cool kid that turns up and he blows up a guitar amp, you know, like he then jumps out the, you know, he gets a phone call from his buddy who's like, you know, oh, my clock's all 25 minutes late. And he's like, oh, I'm late for school. Hangs up. Huey Lewis kicks in. It's a great song. He jumps on a skateboard, grabs the back of a car, like, and just fucking just like is like, that's how he gets to school. I mean, who the fuck is this kid? Oh my God. Like he's got a hot girlfriend. He's shredding at a talent show and he gets told he'll never amount to anything. Like and all of that happens in the first 8 minutes of this movie. Like, and I was just fucking blown away. Like, what the fuck? This kid's life is amazing, and he thinks his life sucks. Like, and then like you go through the whole journey of it, but like it appealed. Marty McFly will always appeal to that downtrodden loser in me that, like, you know, came from nowhere and, like, you know, tried to fight his way up, and that has been my standard. Back to the Future has become my standard of movie, like moving forwards ever since. And it is the reason that I go back to it, because it sets such a high bar with ease. And, you know, like we've not even mentioned the sequels yet. and like it's like it had like 2 amazing sequels that were filmed back to back that were just fucking great. So I mean, sorry, Neil, you have mentioned the sequels, but like, I went to see Back to the Future 2 in the cinema and then 3 in the cinema because they were filmed back to back and released a year apart. So like to get to do that when I didn't get to do that with Star Wars was fucking unreal. So yeah, I think the character of Marty McFly is a big part of the reason I keep coming back to it, and the standard of the movie, it just in itself.
Do you think it subconsciously made you want? Do you think it subconsciously as well, like the old Johnny B. Good scene in the guitar stuff, made you want to get into
Not
music?
Even subconsciously, like I was just like, how do I like? I saw musicians at that time as being like just like ethereal beings that you're born into it. It's like the royalty. Like if you're going to be a musician, you're born.
Here's your guitar, my lord.
Yeah, it's like you're like knighted and like you like with a fucking guitar. And I had no idea that you could learn and do it and be a guitarist.
I was about to say, when we first met, because you came in as our singer, but did you play guitar at that point?
No, I didn't. I didn't know that I could learn.
That was it.
And also I looked at Marty McFly as this guy that was like I didn't even see it as a dream. This movie didn't even make me realize that you could become a guitarist.
I honestly think as well that film is part of. You remember and you guys, David and Jose, you don't know this, but when we were kids, we did gigs at our school.
Yeah,
and they are so seared into my brain. And we probably had about, I don't know, in my head once. I think I said it was like something crazy, like a couple of hundred. It was probably about 60 people there.
Yeah,
but we were 17 and we got 60 people for a gig at our school, right?
Nice.
Yeah. And I remember the PE teachers band were playing after us, and they were terrible. So a bunch of guys in their like mid to late 20s who were just really bad, and they played half the same songs we did, but we did them better. Yeah. And then at the end of it, people were actually asking for us to go and play again.
Hey,
yeah, it was nice. It was wild.
We finished. Didn't we finish with the? Did we open or finish with the 18 theme tune, Rocked Up?
Oh, I think I started with it. I think
we started with the 18 theme tune.
Yeah. We should have done Johnny Be Good. That would have been great.
Should have been. Yeah,
none of us were good enough.
None of us were good enough then, though. Right, gentlemen. Well, as we reach the 15th hour of the podcast, we now come on to the meat of the podcast, which is the rewatch notes. So this is just kind of like a free-form flow of consciousness. David, jump in when you want to. We've all kind of added notes to what we were thought of when we watched it recently, and hopefully this will be slightly entertaining.
We're going to go through it in order, right? From start to finish, how the film goes, the flow of it.
The first thing I picked up on, and I couldn't believe in the first scene, despite all the brilliant stuff Ben just said, was I couldn't believe the amount of fucking product placement. Toyota, King, JVC, Nike, and that's before you even see Marty in it. And apparently, I read that the Burger King stuff wasn't paid. It was just that the flat they were filming in for Doc's apartment was right next door to one.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Again, like you say, it's done as a perfect example of a screenplay and how much happens. But just in that first scene, you got the plutonium news report. Oh, it's just a throwaway thing you don't pay attention to the first time. It's there. Then you see the plutonium under the desk.
Like, yeah, because as the camera's panning over all the clocks, and it goes to the framed picture of Doc with all the news clippings that he's had to sell his estate, and because he has the mansion obviously in 55, and that's being sold. Like, I was just wondering why would he frame that and have it up on display?
It's a constant reminder. It drives him forward forever.
Yeah. That's just a weird thing to want to frame and display.
It's like to Neil's point, like it's essential. And the flow of that scene, it starts on the left, it goes round to the right, it goes from the right to the left, and it forms like this S all the way across the screen until the point where the skateboard rolls across and hits the plutonium. So it's like Mousetrap in that, like it starts here and it goes round and you're like watching all the clocks and you're like, what are these clocks about? And it doesn't really make any sense apart from it's a time travel movie and you know that from the outset.
Yeah.
Also, did you notice the little tribute to the film Safety Last with Harold Lloyd hanging from the clock?
I didn't. I saw this in your notes and I was looking out for it.
Mm-hmm. It's just a subtle nod. It's one of those background things, and it's just obviously time related, but also it's foreshadowing for the end of the movie too. So I just like a wonderful piece of detail.
Probably what you didn't know as well, Jose. Harold Lloyd is Christopher Lloyd's great-great-grandfather and actually a time traveler.
No way.
That's actually
that was all complete bollocks on my part there.
Amazing.
Although the coincidence of the last name.
I love as well, Al, that we don't even see Marty's face until after the amp explodes.
Yeah.
Just like every shot of him, it's just like you see the hand, you see him like walking past.
The pick with like the metal tip on it so it glints. Like, I mean, I've been a big guitarist for quite some time, and you can get metal picks, but I've never seen a pick exactly like that. So it's all there for like, it's all got its place. But like, I feel like the fact that you don't get to see Marty's face until after the amp explodes is like so that you can put yourself in his shoes. You see yourself as this person right up until the point where it goes wrong, and then he takes over. So it's like you could be this cool kid, like all the way through, like up to that one point, and then all of a sudden he takes over when it all goes wrong. I was like, that's fucking genius.
Here's a question as a non-music guy. Does it kind of hurt you a little bit how he just kept ramping everything up to the top levels? Or is it just kind of fun and cool?
All right. So Jose's actually come on to a really good point now, and this is going to take about an hour and a half for me to explain, describe, and break down now. Okay. So here we go. Please strap in. If you turn a guitar amp up that loud and stand in front of it with a guitar like that, it will fucking kill you. It will absolutely. It will feed back to the point that your ears bleed, your brain melts, your eyeballs explode. So I'm not surprised that the fucking cone explodes and sends him across the room. I love that they use a tiny guitar. It's like, you know what? That's an allegory for the rest of the movie. It's like a tiny change can make a huge explosion in his life.
Oh,
right. So like, there's loads of little things dropped in there. So it's like this tiny guitar makes this enormous fucking noise. One tiny change in his history will make an enormous fucking noise in his future.
No, but does it hurt to see the amp be destroyed?
Nah, fuck that. It was. You turn it up. Fucking have it.
I'm glad that you said it kills people as well, because there's a Survive the Movie segment on YouTube that goes into all of that. And like the second it goes, he would have broke his neck.
Yeah, he'd be in trouble.
Like he wouldn't have gone falling back like this. He'd have gone snap straight onto his neck.
God. Even before that, like he would have been in trouble, man.
In the real world, that movie would have ended there.
So
start the credits.
The sonic boom would literally kill you with the force.
In the real world, when he turned the gain up, the pitch of feedback that would have happened between the guitar, because he's standing like a meter away from that thing as well.
Yeah,
the pitch of feedback would have seriously damaged him to beyond like the capacity of being able to be a human anymore.
I mean, if we didn't know anything about like magnets and amps and that work, would it ever be possible, Rick and Morty style, that he flips his switch on the guitar and it actually pulled him into the amp and then pulled all the skin off?
I mean, anything's possible in the Rick and Morty world. So,
right?
Yes.
I have a question. Why do these amps exist? If
They
they're
don't.
so dangerous.
They don't. There's nothing like that in the world.
So that's a fake amp? There's no amp that big?
No, God, no. No.
Okay.
Do you not even see like massive bands now? I'm over the years, like amps have just got better and smaller. So like you don't have to have these gigantic, monstrous fucking things that we used to have to cart around.
Although I do now want to work for a band that has that amp on stage, and just turn right the fuck down, like
Yeah, but you're gonna definitely get some like coked up guitars. Just like no,
yeah, turn it right up.
Fly into the crowd.
We'll just have like an amp that only goes to 1, so that you can't turn it all the way up
to 11.
I was honestly waiting to see if it went to 11.
Obviously, when we get to the band practice bit, you got the pinheads. I mean, that's probably a better name than what our first band was called. But
yeah, we're not going to talk about that,
and we're definitely not going to mention it here.
You gotta say it now.
That's
no.
You and Jose to try and find out
your old dad name,
the dickheads.
Some homework. So I was just going to say, you get your obligatory Huey Lewis cameo as a guy who says you're just too damn loud. One thing I didn't notice, the first time I noticed this, Marty is playing at this point an Ibanez guitar. And I bought an Ibanez that was like my second guitar I ever bought. And I was like, I wonder if that's a whole subconscious thing where Marty's playing an Ibanez, so I bought an Ibanez. Of course, mine was bright green, like a proper metal guitar, and it did not look good playing Oasis on it or Hootie and the Blowfish.
We did make Neil play a lot of stuff he didn't want to play in that band.
I found an article that talked about there was apparently a clip of the band playing. It didn't get cut short, but there's a deleted scene, and the band is properly bad. It's
they should be. High school band. They should be terrible.
Yes. But in that band, Paul Hansen is on the bass guitar and was Michael J. Fox's instructor for the scenes that he learned. And he actually played the riff in the scene. So whatever you hear, Paul Hansen is playing.
Also a time traveler then from Hansen.
Yes. Actually, it's their dad.
Mbop,
probably their
indeed.
dad.
Mbop. We're just making shit up now, aren't we? That's
Yes.
just clear conjecture on your part, Mr. Lopez.
It's like Lloyd, Christopher Lloyd's great
Hanson's
grandfather.
dad's an oil baron.
We also get Marty doing that internet meme that you see everywhere of the guy checking out the other girl when he's with Jennifer. Like, you're with Jennifer, and you literally just check out the other two girls as they're walking past.
Oh yeah, but that gives you a great insight into Jennifer's like psyche, where she just grabs his chin and pulls it round to him, to her. So like, and it's just that to me was like that was amazing because it was like a girl with that much confidence, like just being like, yeah, all right, I get it, they're hot, but look, don't forget about me. And he's like, yeah, all right, you're the best. So like that to me as a young guy, like set up this like this like level for like, well, you know, girls are confident and great, and that's kind of what I want. So you know.
I mean, how great, speaking of great, how great was Claudia Wells in this film? And it's a shame that her career never really continued. And the reason was apparently her mum got sick during the during the film, and then that's why she didn't come back for the sequel, sadly. And she got recast by Elizabeth Shue. Again, even in this scene, you realise how well written the film is in terms of script and direction, because everything you see on screen keys into what you're going to see later. From the re-elect Mayor Goldie Wilson signs to the save the clock tower flyer Marty gets given. I mean, I'm sure that's going to be very useful later in the film. But one thing, again, I didn't notice first time round, and again, it's just one of these new things I picked up this time. Orgy American Style on at the cinema in the background is an actual porn film from 1973.
No way.
That's an actual
David
film.
Google silently in the background, it says in the script. And I can't remember if I wrote that or you did, David.
Wait, I did, and I am doing that right now.
Not so silent.
Also, you might need to ask Jose what American Style is. Also, David's note.
I don't know.
Yeah, I want to know, Jose. What's the orgy American style specific?
It's just,
very
it's
specific.
just got hot dogs
It's
and burgers
American.
everywhere.
Yeah.
It's a freedom orgy.
Lots of hot dogs to the face.
You're welcome, world.
Free love.
Anyway, I like how when we see Marty go home to Lyon Estates, you can see it's like really run down. There's graffiti. It's crumbling down a bit. Kind of like an analogy for how his family is in the modern day. Kind of goes back to what you said, Ben, about how like, you know, he was coming from like that wrong side of the tracks vibe that you kind of get from him.
Yeah, for sure.
And then, of course, we get Biff for the first time. And why did you lend me a car with a blind spot? I just
fucking amazing.
Obviously, now knowing he's a comedian, but his line delivery is he's just so fucking good that way for it.
Yeah,
it's perfect, and it feels fast and loose, that scene, but in such a controlled way.
Yeah,
and it says he did improvise a lot of his scenes, so it makes you wonder how many of those lines he did just Thomas F. Wilson come up with.
Yeah.
Oh God,
I just love how he ends. Say hi to your mum for me,
which Mark Wahlberg stole years later.
Say hi to your mother. Say hi to your mother.
But is that's like, I feel like that's the start of like mum jokes, like right there. I think he needs some sort of royalty for that. Like that's
at the time, Crispin Glover, right, was actually 20 when he played George McFly, so he was actually 3 years younger than Fox, he's playing his dad, who was 23 at the time. I mean, that must break your brain a little bit.
Marty McFly was supposed to be like 17, and his dad was fucking in his like late 30s, I guess. but then when he goes back in time, he's gone back to high school, so his dad's playing a 17-year-old as well.
That probably makes more sense on the casting side of things.
There's a few more reasons for that, and you know, Marty McFly being played by Michael J. Fox, who was like 3.5 foot or however fucking tall he was, like
perpetually 12, even when like way through his career, like even when he started doing his like serious actor bits in like Casualties of War.
Whatever him and like Bryan Adams have done to stay young, that like looking that young for that long is just fucking probably best kept between them.
Human sacrifice
and witchcraft.
Anyway,
also I love that little pause George does when Biff says, "Now you don't want me to get fired, do you?" And I love it because again, in that first exchange, you're already hinting that George might have a backbone buried deep, deep, deep in there somewhere.
Well, before that, I like how as Biff leaves and Marty's talking to his dad, he's like, "I just don't like confrontation," but you see him balling up his fist, trying not to want to punch the guy. So you could see that there's
he does that tension and release thing where he balls his fist up and throws it out as like I just don't like confrontation.
It gives it more to your backbone theory. It's like it's there. He just is afraid to let it out. And what's interesting is after that point, there's supposed to be a scene that was taken out of one of his neighbors with his son trying to sell peanut brittle. and it's just trying to kind of add on to the whole George McFly not having any confidence, and they're like, hey, buy us our peanut brittle, and apparently like he sells them like multiple boxes, which is why when you cut to the next scene, you see him pouring peanut brittle into the bowl, even though he didn't want the peanut brittle.
And that's why Marty's got that kind of look of disgust at his dad on his face as well.
Yeah. So it's probably they thought, okay, that's a little too much now, so we can cut that out. But it was just like, if you know that deleted scene is there, you kind of like, oh, there's a peanut brittle. That's so cool.
I actually really liked that scene. I watched this deleted scene literally like half hour before we started recording this episode, and it actually made me laugh because he's saying like Marty's saying, you got to say no, Dad. You got to learn how to say no the entire time. And then this guy turns up who's clearly like an old bully neighbor sort of thing, knows that George is a bit of a wet blanket, and sells him multiple boxes. And he just says, see, as he's leaving, he's like, see, I told you, honey, we only needed to go to one house. It's just that line. I just thought it was
I haven't
funny.
seen that scene, but you know who it should have been? It should have been the ginger guy who tries to cut in a dance scene at the end.
I was about to say, is it one of the bullies from Biff's gang?
Yeah, Billy Zane, grown up Billy Zane.
Ooh,
that would be great.
Now, does Dave work for Burger King?
Yes, that's the uniform.
Yes.
Because I couldn't tell, because I was looking at it going, well, also...
I mean, they probably couldn't put the patches to show you, but that was, for us Americans, it's very clearly an old Burger King. It's the color scheme and everything.
And we didn't
even
even
the hat.
have a Burger King here in our neck of the woods, Jose, at that time.
Oh, I feel so sorry.
I mean, my internal organs don't, actually. I'm quite happy about that.
Do they kind of like slag Burger King workers off then at the end, where he's like, in a suit working in an office?
Well, I think it's because he's supposed to be an older gentleman, and at the time, Burger King was like a high school job. So they're just saying...
Is he? How much older is he then?
It's the same age.
I thought he was a bit older.
Yeah.
I thought, I'm with Jose.
He's an older brother,
He's an older
but I
brother.
thought, but not that much
I would
older.
say
Yeah.
early 20s.
Marty's sister, Linda, played by Wendy Jo Sperber. I mean, she's just Meg from Family Guy, right? Like, when I saw that, I was like, that is the inspiration for Meg right there.
Yeah. I got to see it. I see the correlation.
I just the glasses, the hairstyle. I just wanted to go, shut up, Linda, as I was watching it. And then, of course, we get the first kind of like drunken alcoholic, looking quite bad Lorraine.
One of the things that is like noises, like the Foley noises, that is like firmly wedged in my brain is that tray hit the cake. The metal hitting the table. It's so visceral. It's like whap, and it sounds like a jail cell door shutting.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm like, that's genius.
And that's why it's
again
won the Oscar for best sound effects editing.
Fucking right, should have won more.
And then we get Lorraine explaining how none of them would have been born if George hadn't been by her dad's car, which leads to what were you doing, George? Bird watching. And of course, at this time we get
what Lorraine? What?
Actually, yeah, he never answers her. I just saw this.
No, that's what he says. He goes, "What, Lorraine?
What?
What?"
And he just kind of zones out. He's like, "Yeah, trying to avoid the."
He knows what he's doing.
Yeah, he knows what he did.
Great light placement there as well.
Yes,
there is. Like on that table, there everything is turned sideways. Every box, the peanut brittle, everything is turned sideways. The only two things facing the camera are a can of Bud Light and a can of Pepsi, or 2 cans. Of Pepsi.
Oh, okay.
And this is something I never noticed before. Marty falls asleep with his guitar on the bed. Ben.
Yes, he does.
No, but is that something you would do?
Is it a sin?
I never think I've fallen.
I've done it
I
before.
think you have done it before. That's what I was going to ask. Yeah,
I've done it before, but like I didn't mean to. I mean, like he's a kid. He's like he loves his guitar as part of his he's just got in from school. He's thrown it on the bed, I guess, and just been like, I'll deal with that later, and then just gone fallen asleep in his clothes.
I think as long as he wasn't spooning it,
I wouldn't do it.
I think that might be a bit.
It's weird.
Okay, that is literally it's not what I did with my Gibson when I first got it. Definitely not. Einstein and the DeLorean reveal at the Twin Pines Mall, and that is a fine head shake and some fine dog acting by Einstein.
Tiny.
It is.
I love that. He's the best boy still. I love that the DeLorean gets its own like character style introduction.
Yeah,
like that slow reveal and the smoke and everything, and it comes down. And it is a character. It is a character.
That scene will
is.
always be in my brain because it was the first thing I saw watching that VHS.
Yeah. Jose had missed the first 20 minutes of the film.
Yeah. Do you know it took me entirely too long to realize that Einstein and Copernicus were 2 different dogs? Because obviously 30 years it's not going to be the same dog. Sadly.
What is a Devo suit? I that line kind of stood out. I was like, "What?" He goes, "Hey Doc, is it a Devo suit?" And I was like, "I for the longest time I just thought it was another name for like a radiation suit."
I never even noticed it until this last rewatch. I'm like, Devo, the 80s band? Because it just makes perfect
And then I
sense.
Googled it, and they used to wear suits like that on stage.
In their music videos, too.
Yeah, so that's where it came from.
I thought that was
amazing.
so
With a
hilarious.
weird, like, almost pyramid style, like, round hat thing. It looks like a Jello mold.
Yes.
And I've got to say, obviously, we then get like the first bit of the car going, and when this baby hits 88 miles an hour, you're going to see some serious shit.
Here's a question, just to jump in on that. I'm really sorry, but like, number one, Einstein, first ever time traveler, so dogs paving the way, and he hasn't tested this car.
Oh, let's lead into that then. First official test, like experiment number 1, and he's standing in front of the car going 88 miles an hour. And he's pulling Marty back as he's trying to get to a safe distance. I'm like, guys.
I don't know about this, edging out the frame.
But do you know what I loved about the way you filmed this? There's loads of scenes in the film, right, when it's a static camera and Doc walks to the front of the frame and Marty stood at the back, and then they change places. And that was literally just because of the height difference. I loved it because it's just so funny, because he's like, normally now the camera would be moving everywhere, but it just added to the comedic effect. The music would cut exactly as one stops, and then he'd walk back, and then it was so... that is just comedy editing there, like when you're watching it going. And the South Park guys do it all the time, that single frame, character at the foreground, character at the background, then they switch and go back and forth, and it's just so well done.
So if we're talking about that scene, we really need to talk about the 65 mile an hour burnout that car does with its handbrake on. Now, once again, strap in, listeners. Engineering with Ben Tannen. I'm pretty sure if you do a fucking burnout at 65 miles an hour, you are going to shred your fucking tires. Also, when you take the handbrake off, it's not traveling at 65 miles an hour. It has to start from 0 and get to 65. So it doesn't leave at 65 miles an hour. It leaves at 0 miles an hour and has to get back up to 65 when the revs drop and it hits the fucking... So there's a lot of danger going on there.
They had Goodyear tires.
Yeah,
right,
man.
that
Goodyear tires
helps.
can do that.
That makes sense. You could just teleport to that speed immediately.
Exactly.
That's
why.
That makes sense.
Goodyear,
well magic.
Well done.
So you're telling me it's a sponsorship? If I bought a Goodyear tire, then it wouldn't... I wouldn't be able to do
I think that's exactly what would happen.
If you could rig up a remote control system for a car, by the way, which was cool as fuck.
That's the awesome part.
Like, he's just like edging the fucking speed. I'm like, at no point does Marty go, dude, like you got remote control, a full size remote control car,
dude.
So I could sit in this and you could send me to school. That's cool as fuck,
right?
I was like, is that what you've made, a remote control car? Nope.
Yeah.
Like, it's fucking amazing.
You know what's crazy is they never really brought that back. I think that would have been really interesting.
Didn't remote control the train in the third one.
We should have had... Oh, no, you meant in general. I was talking about real life, like just having remote control to the car. So, do you imagine sitting there with your iPad and your phone? Yeah, I'm just sending the kids to school.
Yeah.
It's going to send the car down to Domino's. Say that's delivery fee.
Ask Tesla to send them now anyway.
And a little issue, when Doc says, so do you want to see the Declaration of Independence or the birth of Jesus? Yeah, but you'd still be in Hill Valley, California in the year 000 or 7076.
It's not a TARDIS.
And my response to that is, you're in a car, so you can drive there.
You can't drive from Hill Valley to...
Jerusalem,
yeah. That's a bit of a trek.
There's no bridges. You'd have to... Also, you'd need petrol.
I know.
Like, there's a lot of things there. But I love that he says, like, the signing a Declaration of Independence puts the date in, which obviously I always forget. But he puts in the date of the birth of Christ as 25th of December, 0000.
Right?
Like, it's fucking great because obviously historically they changed all the dates in the Bible to to suit the pagan calendar. So he'd have missed it anyway.
So that's what telling me why I got that question wrong. The birth of Christ in my religion because we went to a Roman Catholic school and we had to take religion courses.
Yeah.
So what was the official birth of Christ?
I went to a Roman Catholic school as well.
Yeah.
Look at that.
We lied. We lied because it's just we lived nearby, and it was like, yeah, we go to church and do that stuff because we didn't want to have to walk further.
Because like public schools over here, like take you in. We used to take you in based on your religion, and there were way more Roman Catholic schools than there were like Church of England schools or anything else. And then you either had to like pass tests to get into the grammar schools we call them, or you'd have to pay to go to private. So you just fucking lied.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
From the church to casual racism.
Oh yeah, Libyan.
That's a very good tie-in.
Now,
not even casual.
Yes, well, it's just outright racism. I mean, What?
Why was it Libyans in the first place? Like, what was the reason
Right.
for Libyans?
So basically, I think there was a little bit of political uncertainty between America and Libya in the 1980s. I mean, Colonel Gaddafi and all that. I think
That feels right.
That feels right. I
But
don't know.
I'm gonna say it feels right because I don't know.
Same.
I mean, I was the one that asked the question, so I don't have a
American
clue.
here who's done history at school and can tell us this.
That was an era where movies could just give you facts and you would just accept them face value. And I think it's just another fact that, oh, Libyans are in the news, so let's just throw that name out there, but we don't really know what's going on. And I mean, so I think that's what it came down to is.
I think they also had to be really careful because the Cold War was still a thing.
Yeah, you couldn't use Russian.
So you don't want to say Russians.
But they did say when the gun jams and he goes, "Damn Soviet gun." I never heard that, but it's on the subtitles.
It was in the subtitles.
Is it?
Yeah. I saw
Damn
that in the
Soviet gun.
Oh.
Which is helpful, handily, when the subtitles shouts in Arabic.
I gotta say though, the fact that gun jamming.
It says in the notes here, "Rant from Jose" in capitals.
Yes.
Strap in, folks.
That gun, I did my research. It is an AK-47, which is arguably one of the most reliable guns in the world, which is why it's the most popular gun, sadly, so it has a tarnished, past. But that gun would not jam that many times.
I have an explanation for this.
Okay, go on.
Marty McFly, when he saves Doc goes, "Hang on, I need to go back and sabotage that gun." Goes back in time when he's making the deal with the Libyans. He's like, right, this gun, got to sabotage it. He's going to jam it up somehow. And like when they're doing the deal, like he goes, "Oh, fuck, what's that over there?" And they go, "What?" They look over there. He grabs the gun. He jams the firing mechanism. He's like, right, that'll fuck him up later on. Puts it back. And then he disappears off in the time machine, like a la Bill and Ted. Like at the end of Bill and Ted, where they're like, yeah, but if we go back and set this up, this happens. Like that's how Doc Brown fixes that.
I thought you were just gonna say he sold them a batch of bad AK-47s, which would
that's a much better answer than that, Jose.
Doc Brown is not an arms dealer, and I will not have his name tarnished in any way, shape, or form.
Oh, he is an arms dealer though, because he created a bomb for them. That's why they're pissed in the first place.
He gave them a casing full of old clock parts.
Oh, he said pinball.
It's pinball parts. Yeah.
Oh, pinball machine parts. That's it.
Right.
And also, thinking about it, then Doc Brown essentially just did what the Avengers did with the time heist anyway.
Oh.
They had to go back and fix shit.
So what we're watching is the culmination of Doc's failed attempts to save Marty.
Correct.
And we just happen to watch the one where he gets
You've
it right.
just described Rick and Morty, that's all.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's great though.
Yeah.
I like it.
Isn't that crazy?
Wait a second. Are you saying Rick and Morty's
not real?
The same as Back to the Future?
It's close.
We'll get to that later, maybe.
Like...
I like how when he's like shooting away on the car the first time, that they tease him going to 88. I was like, oh, he's going to go. And then he takes a corner.
Yes,
and I completely forgot. And just a little, I was getting so excited into the moment of it. I was like, yeah. And here we go. Oh, wait. Well, I don't remember this. He takes a corner and then speeds up again.
Yep. Let's see if you bastards can do 90. But he also hits 88 miles an hour in a car park, which was, there's no way that car will be able to get that fast in that car park. So Doc Brown, and I have a solution for this. Doc Brown has doctored that engine. He has upgraded that engine because he knows that he needs it to go fast. So he's like, all right, I'm going to beef it up. It's a fucking beast of an engine in there now. So yes.
It weren't DeLoreans famously not very fast cars?
Yeah, and massively unreliable, apparently.
Yeah.
Way too heavy for their own good.
Because of all the cocaine in them, probably, holding them down.
Allegedly.
From John DeLorean. No, he went to prison for it. It's good. I don't think he's going to sue us.
It's good.
How the DeLorean in the barn, when he smashes into the barn, is mistaken for a spaceship, and the radiation suit and the American paranoia of the aliens in the 50s and all that kind of stuff. Again, in one such short scene, they just get through all of it.
It's genius.
Is it at this point he hits the pine as well?
Yes.
The pine tree. At that point, yeah.
From Twin Pines Mall to Lone Pine Mall. That's like, it's well documented. But like, it's really clever, like how they make the comic book look like the front of the DeLorean. If you look at the comic book, it looks like it could be like a saucer shape. But when you look at it front on from the DeLorean with the door up, it's like, oh geez, that's really clever. That's like that's a really nice piece of like tie-in. It's already mutated into human form. Take that, you mutate son of a bitch!
But what I love there as well, it's like you mentioned earlier, the Foley effects, the sound effects on the film. The sound of that DeLorean door opening just sounds like a spaceship, doesn't it? It's just like it's like that Ghostbusters Proton Pack moment you mentioned earlier. And one thing I never noticed, when Marty trips over forward the first time before he trips backwards again, he does a lot of tripping in this scene. When he falls over, he looks like a baby elephant with those two giant ears behind.
You put that in the
behind
notes,
him.
and I was like, "What the fuck are you talking about?"
And did you watch it?
I
was
didn't
like,
know what he was
helmet.
on about.
of all the things you could say, like, I mean, minus him being grey and having a fucking trunk. Yeah, I'd agree.
That's why I put baby elephant. I mean, but here we go. This guy basically tried to flat out murder Marty. At best, like, did Independence Day not teach us anything? Please don't shoot at a spaceship. You don't want to start an intergalactic war. If he thought he was a Martian, he literally tried to murder him. Although I loved, again, Fox's excellent comedic timing here. I love that little stumble back and trip on the door frame. And then I was like,
Yeah.
and he did that for fucking real back in the day. Like, there's probably a crash
Oh,
pad
yeah.
there, but the fact it was just, I loved it, man.
Okay. Sorry about your door.
Well, it's that line, isn't it?
Sorry about your door.
You space bastard, you killed my pines might be my new favourite line from the film that I hadn't picked up on before.
And you got to admit,
good.
the casting is great for just one small part in a small
Everyone.
scene. That old guy is in my brain when I can literally see him anytime I think about that moment. And his
I'm
voice.
so glad you said that moment. I was like, that old guy's in my brain. I can see him. I was getting Mr. The guy from Family.
That old guy lives from Failing Mind.
But also, one. If I have the tiny hole here, there is no way Marty got back in the car that quickly in time to drive out of the barn from when the shot goes.
It's called editing, Neil. It's called editing.
Really? I'm not familiar with it, Jose. Fucking hell. And again, I love Alan Silvestri's ominous score as Marty gets there and he sees that line of states hasn't been built yet. And then when he's just trying to stop people in the street, that don't stop, Wilbur, drive.
But that score is like something we haven't even touched on, and we are normally so hot on music as well. Well, at least Neil is. That score, without that score, this movie is nothing.
I mean, it's something.
It's something.
But the score is the cherry on top.
But it's like it lifts parts that need to be lifted. It drops parts that needs to be dropped. It has when Marty's winning, it does whatever that was, Jose. But when Marty's winning, it has got the fanfare of da da da, and then when it's not, it drops into that minor tone, and it's like it's perfection. Again, it's edited well, but it's also scored perfectly. And actually, now I'm saying that, I really want to go and see the Royal Albert Hall. They do these watch the movie with an orchestra. I think Back to the Future would be a perfect.
Yes, man, definitely. I'm there for that as well. And of course, we then get Marty entering into Hill Valley 1955 with the Mr. Sandman montage.
Mr. Sandman.
And I think this is your note here, David.
Did you know that the "We needed roads, where we're going, we don't need roads" line was actually used a year later after the film's release by President Ronald Reagan in his speech? What was the speech, Neil?
State of the Union.
State of the Union speech. Yeah, his State of the Union address. So this is a question I actually wanted to bring to you guys, and I think Ben touched upon it earlier, was the political, the sort of subtle political angles of the film. So was Zemeckis quite was he like a Republican? I don't know if anyone knows his actual political alignment, but because Red Thomas in 55 is getting re-elected, and he's clearly got red all around his political campaign, so he's a Republican. So I was like, oh, okay, and Hill Valley's fucking lovely in 1955. It's a great place to live. 1985, we see Wilson, who's got blue, so Democrat as his all his colours, and it's a shithole. So I'm like, is that sort of a subtle political thing? And Wilson must have been a really shit mayor either way.
Because don't forget, at the end of the film, we see the mayor. He's now a homeless person sleeping on the bench, which I think we mentioned earlier.
I mean, that kind of changes my idea a little bit, because if they're showing that politician, unless I don't know, maybe
that's a really good
I
observation.
think for me, it feels like an overview of America as opposed to an overview of the political state of things. In the 50s, America was shown as this very successful, driven and technologically sort of almost advanced country, whereas in the 80s the world was dealing with a lot of recession and unrest and stuff. So I don't know if it's maybe overall for America.
It would have been post Jimmy Carter, wouldn't it? Ronald Reagan was after Jimmy Carter,
definitely.
right, Jose?
Yes.
So that would have been so Jimmy Carter was notoriously seen as a really weak president, wasn't he? So I don't know whether that's that democratic. Anyway, we're going too much into presidents here. We should get back to the film. yeah. But yeah, I just thought there might be some subtle sort of political angles to the film.
There must be something to it because it is there and it is quite like to have a mayor down on his luck to that point. But I mean, for me, it's like an overview of the world. I mean, I don't.
And this has been the Politics Hour with David and Ben.
For the record, Ronald Reagan
And
was
Jose.
president from 1981 to 1989. So 85 was right in the middle of his presidency. So it had opportunities for a lot of his policies to take into effect into America, which as an American, and also honestly, I am more of a liberal minded person. I've seen evidence saying that a lot of his policies were for the profit of the more affluent, and so that had a negative effect on the average American. So I feel like it could potentially be a comment on that, but it's like right in the middle of the presidency, and a lot of the information that's provided was all based off of what happened after his presidency. So it could have been just kind of a coincidence of the timing.
I think it was fairly subtle, wasn't it? It was fairly subtle.
Yeah.
It might have been me even reading
Maybe.
too much into it. So let's.
Did you read the
we can leave it
newspaper
at
this
that,
morning,
yeah.
David, or look at news of any kind before you watch the film?
I'm big into politics at the moment. I don't. Me and you haven't. Yeah, I'm quite into politics. Anyway,
That could be a conversation for another day.
No, not on this podcast. Right, so I'm also not sure quite here why Marty thinks it's all a dream. Even when he's seen the newspaper, he's already seen that Einstein's travelled back in time, and he knows Doc's built a time machine. Like, to be fair though, he has been through a lot. Because how long do you reckon it's been from when he got in the car being chased by the Libyans and to getting into Hill Valley? Like, what? It's maybe like a few hours.
It's a 2-hour walk.
2 mile walk.
2-mile walk.
And it was night time,
right?
probably like first thing in the morning because it was 1 o'clock in the morning. Time travel. Do you come back at the same time?
Depends on what you set on the time circuits.
Yeah.
Part of it is he was walking through open farmland, and so yes, it's like, okay, it's different, but like when you get back into the town square, that's when it really sinks in. Okay, this is very different. Because if you go out in the woods back in time, it's still kind of the woods, but if you go back into a city, it's like really hits you there.
That should be a poster quote for a horror film, Jose, right there.
If you go back into the
He
woods.
went from a parking lot in 1985 to a pine farm in 1955. I think that like the dream thing doesn't kick in either until he gets run over by his granddad.
Oh yeah,
that's when the dream
coming
thing
up
really
soon.
kicks in.
But first of all, let's talk even more soft drinks. So, get me a tab. Obviously, the tab joke in a restaurant. Give me a tab. I can't give you a tab until you buy something. Okay, well then give me a Pepsi Free. I had never remembered Pepsi Free in the UK at all, or tab.
I don't think we had it.
We had either of them.
I don't think we had it. We had Tab Clear Coke, didn't we,
Remember
for a
Tab
while?
Clear, yeah. Because you had Pepsi Free, but you also had Tab, didn't you? And Tab was Coke, wasn't it, Jose?
I thought it was.
Unless they were trying to make
No,
a difference
Tab was
between Pepsi Free in the future, which is like the great thing, and then Tab was like the old one. But then, like you said, Jose, Tab always seemed to be something older people drank.
What the fuck is Tab?
I think Tab was an early diet. According to my notes.
All right. I'm gonna invoke the power of Google. Somebody Google this and find out what the fuck we're driveling on about. Because not only is this misinformed, it's boring as fuck.
Coke, Tab was an early diet brand of Coke, but they stopped making it in 2020 because no one was buying it.
2020 was only 4 years ago. Anyway, fuck it. Yeah, who cares?
Next.
And Pepsi Free was also phased out in 1987, so it didn't.
I'm going to phase you out in a minute, Jose.
Ooh,
Jesus. Does anybody else need a pee break?
No,
I can wait.
My bladder's going pretty strong.
What
about your
beer all day? I'll
guts?
just drink another beer then. You carry on. Don't worry.
So we get a great reveal as Biff and his cronies walk into the restaurant for the first time, and I love the look of shock on Marty's face as he realises he sat next to his father, and you get this lovely redux of the scene from earlier where Biff, pretty much line for line, where he's asking about his reports and the homework, and it just shows you that George has been Biff's bitch basically his whole life. George, and I love it because he does even the same pause. He goes, "Now you wouldn't want me to get in trouble, would you?" He's like,
"Would you?"
I think when Billy Zane comes in as well, I think it's also the first time we see my favourite character in the entire film, 3D.
Yeah,
that's
the guy with 3D glasses.
3D. It's the bully that wears 3D glasses for some reason, which is for some reason super intimidating.
I wanted to wear 3D glasses so badly after I saw that. And that's another thing.
That's what bullies do.
Apparently, but I was into. I thought it was cool. There's another thing for me. Even though the bad guys were bad guys and the good guys were clearly good guys, there was stuff that I took from this movie from both sides. It was you wanted
3D glasses.
I wanted to wear 3D glasses. I thought Biff's car was cool as fuck.
Hell yeah.
Like,
It's pretty amazing that this film managed to make 3D glasses cool. Because I don't know in what universe 3D glasses are cool.
I think it was just a 50s thing. I think I've seen that.
There was loads of 3D in the 50s, wasn't it? It was like the first time it was out there as a gimmick until James Cameron brought it back for one film, and then no one cared for 5 years. Goldie Wilson spitting truth, the future mayor, and in fact Marty basically, I think someone's put here, this is the first kind of paradox here, because Marty says, well, he's going to be mayor, and
that's right, he's going to be mayor.
Yeah, I'm going to be mayor.
That's a good idea, Mayor Goldie Wilson. You're like, oh shit. So like, this is where the paradoxes will start to come in, and it's not even like it's interesting because it's a small thing that they then like expand on. So they reel you in with a little like, oh, he changed that, and
I'm going to be mayor.
Yeah, he's like, I'm going to be mayor, and then it gets a bit racist.
He goes, yeah, a coloured mayor. That'll be the day. Jesus.
Yeah. And he's like, you wait and see, I will be mayor. And he's like, I'm going to clean up this town. And he goes, good, you can start by sweeping the floor. That is where my love of dad jokes really comes from. Like, stupid shit like that makes me laugh all day.
And I suppose in its own way, even though it's the time 1985, they're still trying to be progressive. They're still going to show you, aren't they? So like,
yeah.
I mean, you probably wouldn't get, but again, there wasn't like a colour character in any of the trilogy, was there? So.
No, I mean, like, but it also does a very good job of punctuating that, like that difference in time. Like, it's like we were saying earlier, I think probably off pod, but like, where if you did Back to the Future now, we would go back to 1995. The differences would be really, really difficult to to pinpoint. I mean, you might be able to use like some like intolerant language to make those points, but like, I just don't know that it would be as easy, like, because, and I'm not saying it's right, but I'm just saying that it was very easy for them to make that distinction of like, well, you're not in the 80s anymore because black people weren't treated the same in the 50s. And that's a very, very simple, quick way of dropping that in as, offensive to like, almost every ethnicity ever. It is, but it was a trope that they used, and they used it very effectively. And I'm going to stop talking before I walk into a cul-de-sac. Right.
And from one problematic bit to another problematic bit of the film. And it is George the pervert. George the bird-watching scene. Yeah, he's a peeping Tom.
He's a peeping Tom. It's funny, because of this movie, they knew what that was.
And that's where Jose's career started. No.
Yes. I knew I had to climb trees and get some binoculars.
Oh, damn. We're going to cut that bit, right?
Yeah, that's pretty bad, isn't it?
Isn't it, Jose?
We're only going to cut that bit because you said binoculars. Because it sounds
How do you say it?
Binoculars.
We say them binoculars.
Oh, okay. I was trying to say it British-like, but it's binoculars to us, too.
What would you say? Did know?
You want to change it then?
I've got a German friend that does exactly the same thing. He would speak perfect English, and then it would be like, oh, I don't know how you would say it in English, and I'd be like, I don't know, say it in German. He'll be like, oh, automobile. I'm like, it's the same thing. Like, oh, god damn it.
I mean, I love it as well. I mean, who puts it tonight? It's like, do kids even know what this is in today? Like, with the ability to see things on the internet.
Oh man. Yeah.
Although I love that Marty takes a hit and then George just runs off. I love Lorraine's dad here. It's like his line again, perfect line delivery. Stella, another one of those damn kids jumped in front of my car. Right. So does this mean Lorraine's dad is just a really bad driver and regularly mows down teenagers, or is perving on Lorraine a local pastime for all the kids in Hill Valley? Which one is it?
Actually,
I got the second one.
They do the second one, Jose.
Yeah, I think you're right, because that was Lorraine in the window, and she said it wasn't her first time parking in a car. So I'm like, oh, Lorraine's.
So you'll start shaming Lorraine. Okay.
Yeah.
And she left the window open, like she left those curtains open. She knew what she was doing.
She just knew she had an audience. That's all.
And bad driver or
peeping Tom. I think it's both. I think the first time a kid drops out of a tree in front of your car, you pay more attention when you get in close to that tree. Secondly, bad dad. Like, if he'd taken a second to look at his house, he'd be like, oh, my fucking daughter's changing over there. What's going on here? And then thirdly, peeping. I think it's everything. I think it's a perfect storm of just pervs and bad drivers.
And of course, after that, we might get hit by a car. We get the first time that we hear, "It's okay, you're awake here in good old 19." And it's a different year from 55.
Yeah. It's where he wakes up and he's like, "Mom, I had the worst dream." And she's like, but she puts on that voice as well every time. Like every time they do it, her voice sounds kind of the same, a bit croaky, a little bit like can't tell if it's the young one or the old one. It's very clever.
I love that.
And he has a habit as well, and even in the other films, of almost saying the wrong thing. He's like, "Mum, you're so hot," and he almost calls his mum hot in it. Like in like two, and he goes, "Mum, you're so big."
So
when he looks at the poop job in the second one. But again, something that made me laugh here, like he's been hit by a car, she put him in bed. Why did she take his trousers off? Like,
because she was horny. That's straight up.
Neil,
right
we both know why. We both know why.
It was the 1950s. It was supposed to be more innocent time. But then when she says it's Calvin Klein, it's written on your and then she reaches for them in the bed. And he's like, I was absolutely screaming at this time out. The way she makes a move on the bed, he falls off the bed, and then you hear like, Lorraine,
oh my god, my parents!
And she just chucks his jeans at him.
Yes, and I never caught this until recently. Is when she leaves the room, you could see her in the mirror in the background, and she takes one like last devilishly smiling look at him before she leaves the room. It's like, this is not her first time.
Yeah, I wonder how many other boys have fallen out of trees, been hit by a car that she's like nursed back to health.
You know what? I disagree. I think it is her first time, and that's why she takes that look. I think she's just like, can't believe her luck, almost like.
So we're not saying like this is a reverse misery situation.
A reverse misery.
But it's a bit more of a rom-com than a straight out horror. I like how the 50th scene with Lorraine's parents parallels the 85 scene we've already had again. And again, also with Uncle Joey. Great line, get used to those bars, kid.
God, I love that line.
So
but I've got to talk about Lee Thompson's performance in this whole scene. Her endless looks of like lust at Marty are hilarious the whole way through.
Her big deep breaths of like, like you could. It's so indicative of what you think teenage lust is. Because I'm too old to remember now, but like I'm pretty sure that's what I was going through.
It makes you wonder what happened.
He can stay in my room.
Oh my god,
that was creepy as shit.
That was from a horror film, right there, David.
Oh man,
you can stay in.
I think she is really creepy. Like I think
pretty sexually aggressive.
I think she's Lorraine's really throughout. Like I mean, she stalks him a little bit. She's like, "Isn't he a dream?" Like all the time, and she comes on very strong.
She does follow him home at one point.
She's very strong. She knows what she wants.
Oh yeah.
She wants Calvin Klein. And of course, we then get the TV bit, like explaining the concept of a rerun, and no one has 2 TV sets.
That blew my mind.
But explaining the concept of a rerun before something's been rerun.
Right, yeah.
It's a rerun. Who is that kid? Because he was in something
Oh,
else,
he's the Wonder Years as the older brother.
Wonder Years. There we go. Yeah.
I always recognize him from that.
Yeah.
But it's just like funny because it's like a lot of those shows. What makes it even more interesting is a lot of those shows were filmed or live when they were being aired. It was very rare for them to be filmed because like I Love Lucy was such a big deal because she actually recorded all of her shows and that's why she was such a big hit. She was able to kind of put them out later.
Oh.
So I think
Check
that's
out
why
Jose with the TV history.
Yes, sir.
Nice.
I gotta love Marty's side eye when she says, "Do I know your mother?" I just like,
oh, that was great.
Yeah, you probably.
Yeah,
you might. You probably.
And then of course you get the dad's line, which is like, "He's an idiot. Parents are probably idiots. You have a kid that way, acts that way, I would disown you."
Nice.
Every line is just like machine
line.
tuned to perfection.
That's so good.
Yeah. What would actually probably happen is if you ever date a guy like that, I would disown you. But for some reason, the script they made it to make it more accurate to. Oh, if you ever have a kid like that. It just made it that much
There's
better.
a little line in there where he's like, that's up by John F. Kennedy Drive. And the dad's like, who the hell is John F. Kennedy? And like that even landed in the UK. Like, because obviously like it was that JFK's was such a worldwide event that like that even lands now. Like you're just like, oh God damn. Yeah. Like it's so clever.
And then of course Marty finally tracks down Doc. Although I do forget that scene, like he rips the thing out of he rips like the whole page out of the phone book.
Oh yeah,
and then he just walks up to the counter with it. And it's like, I'm trying to get this guy. And it's like, I've been into my fucking phone book, you little punk.
He was so aggressive towards Marty the whole time, and he's like, "Oh, you ripped a page out. Okay, that's fine, no big deal."
That's what
people do that all the time.
It's like, oh shit, no, this kid's mentally ripped a phone page out. But then we get Doc and Marty's first meeting. Now, first problem I had here: why would Doc, a man of science and invention, not consider that Marty's telling the truth?
Especially considering he's just thought of the flux capacitor and how you can, the idea behind time travel is just had that thought.
We do know he has just fallen off his, toilet and banged his head. So, he might not be all with it today.
I love that he's trying to read his dog's mind, though. Because he takes the suction cup off the dog and puts it on
Well,
the
and that's
Marley,
another
so
thing,
he's
is it?
just
The
there.
suction cup, for some reason, is stuck on Einstein's head. He's with like Velcro or something. I don't know, but like, and then he goes, "Don't say a word," and he jams a thing on Marty's head, and like everything that he's guessing is just based on his appearance.
Yeah,
Like not a single thing is like he's actually like getting this giant head thing is like actually giving him. God, it's just you want me to make a donation to the Youth Auxiliary Lifeboat Fund, and he as Marty pulls that plunge off his head, and it's deadpan. This delivery is like it should be examined and lauded for its perfection. As he pulls the suction cup off his head, his face doesn't fucking move. He goes, Doc, like I came here in a time machine that you invented." Like, and it's like that whole scene is just note for note perfect. And Doc's face when he like his demeanor doesn't change, and he's like, "Do you know what this means?" And you're like, "Oh my god, he's gonna go. That thing doesn't work at all." It's genius. It's
so good.
Genius upon genius.
Hey everyone, it's Neil here with a drop-in. So, you've probably realised by now that we are over 2 hours into the episode and we're not even halfway through the movie. So we did run a little long, over 4.5 hours on this one when we were recording. So, rather than make you listen to it in one session, we've broken episode 100 up into 2 parts, part 1 and obviously part 2. So, just like on the home VHS version of Back to the Future where it said to be continued, well, so will this episode. Now, I'm going to make like a tree and get out of here.